set up. Woohoo! Guess what? There we go.
I don't know if just this song fits so well, or I just didn't have it loud enough, but this song went so far into the background that I kind of forgot that I was playing it, and I'm not sure if I just wasn't registering it or it was registering and it just, I don't know, I guess fit the situation. I don't really know which one it was.
It fit really well. It still, like, for some reason gives me, Pokemon Blue Rescue Team vibes, but I love it.
I really don't know where.
It's whenever you're being chased into the Ice Mountain and you're meeting up with, Ninetales.
Oh, I thought that was like a completely different song that played there.
It's
Maybe it was a similar song. I don't quite remember.
similar. At least I think the beginning of it is. Like, whenever you, at the little safe point at the beginning of the mountain is.
Possibly.
I lost a lot and had to restart several times whenever I first started playing Blue Rescue Team.
Okay. I don't know if I'm going to end up playing this song, but I'm going to cue it up because I like it. And that's the only reason why.
I get that.
Probably not even going to play it. Gosh, Casseron, do you even remember what happened last time? Like
Gosh,
3 days ago?
so much happened. But yeah, we...
You mean you?
Me.
You're the only one there.
Me. I woke up in the castle. I followed around the queen. Not queen. Well, she was a queen, but the lady. She at first was not very pleased with me because I was pretty boring. Because I failed a lot of my rolls. But then
Yeah.
I actually did tell her about one of my adventure stuff, which was cool. We made history with Knowles. Then I followed her to the uh, the temple of... I know the name. It's in my head.
Apparently they don't.
I know it. I'm for some reason blinking on it. Any other time I can immediately be like, this person, but no. She's the god of the moon and stuff like that.
God of the moon and stuff.
She has other things she's got of. For some reason I'm blinking on it. But anyway, talked to the priest right there. He showed me a painting of the Pale Lady, the first the priestess that was come on, open password book. My notes.
Do you want me to summarize it for you?
Yeah, it'd be faster that way because I don't.
Okay.
I know what happened.
Alright, so last time you woke up in the Castle of Austria. You were led around the nose by Lady Yuki.
Yep.
As you have learned, is a queen of Austria from centuries ago, though exactly how long you have no idea.
Nope. I know before Goldrin. No, not before. After Goldrin.
Yes. And it's also not Goldrin. It's Garland.
Garland. I don't know where the fuck did I get Goldrin? Oh well.
I know where you got Cauldron.
Oh.
But yeah, so you failed to impress her for the most part until you made up history, which became actual history. Um, from
Yay.
there, you were kind of brought around the castle a little bit, shown different places,
Had tea.
learned the fact that you are not the only one that is living in this city with this possibly crazy undead chick. There's actually quite a few people that are living there. Not obviously not enough to constitute living in an entire city, but enough people that there is some stuff that's going on in the city, mostly around the castle area. But there are people that are living in the city. On top of that, you also were shown the Grand Cathedral of Saloon.
That's a cathedral.
She went there seeming to pretty much meet and just sit and talk with a dragonborn cleric by the name of Jin.
Jin.
So, sorry, yawning for a second there. During that point in time, she lost herself in thoughts, and Jin went up to say a prayer in front of an altar that was near the very back of the cathedral, in which an enormous portrait resided. After the lights were lit up, and he used magic to light up what looked like a sort of brazier hanging from the ceiling, it was shown that it was a tiefling, the last high priestess of Saloon, by the name of Cassandra Nilsson.
Yeah.
She had two sisters. One's name was pretty much expunged from the records of history, only now known as the Pale Lady. And there was a second sister, one that is far less known. In fact, the only known sister by most people who actually know of Cassandra is the Pale Lady. But she does, in fact, have a second sister, a youngest sister by the name of Rowanessa, who was a traveling cleric of Saloon. She disappeared shortly after the entire event with Cassandra being sacrificed by Garland occurred. You never did learn the name of that event, but I'm going to go ahead and say it anyways. She disappeared shortly after what was known as the Rage of Frost.
Ah.
It was unknown on whether she died or survived and lived on her life.
Yeah.
In addition to that, you informed Jin of where a tiefling by the name of the Silver Lady, who you now know is most likely called... oh, sorry about that. Oh my god, I can't stop yawning right now. Avanos Baravan, named after the dragon who is a servant of Saloon, and has a strikingly similar, if not the exact same last name as the royal elven family of Sindane. You informed him of where this Silver Lady was most likely residing, somewhere in the Cloudspire Mountains, and he set off in order to try and find her, but not before, in seeming thanks or a bid for favors or something along those lines, Saloon sent you a vision in the form of a dream. A dream about Oro being attacked and ransacked, with dozens upon dozens of its people seeming to be slaughtered in the bowels of a large ship. Over the course of a single night, a mysterious song accompanying it. All that was known is the fact that it was during the course of one of the festivals in which Mistra is one of the main patron gods of. It was thought that it was most likely the festival in which mysteries and knowledge are revealed, and which is also known as the coming of age ceremony. A very local sort of festival. Only Oro and a couple of the surrounding villages that had existed a few years back actually even celebrated said festival. But all signs lead to believing that this is the festival. It's supposed to actually occur a couple weeks from now, but Saloon has given, through the use of a ceremony done by Jin, has given you closure on the fact that you have time. Not just 2 weeks, but more time than that. You'll know when the time comes, and it was not specified when, but you do have time.
Yep.
After that, Jin set off. You went back to the castle where Darla and some of the other maids seemed a little unhappy with your random disappearance out into the city, visiting the Grand Cathedral without telling anyone. They feared that you may have angered Lady Yuki with your sudden disappearance, but for the rest of that day, no one had heard from Yuki. Somewhere in the midst of that day, though, of these several days, though, you did meet with one specific person, a person that you may not have wished to have met with again. One of the 13 knights of the Solari Empire, Arswick.
Yep.
As far as you can tell, he did not recognize you, and strangely enough, seemed kind enough as a person.
Yeah.
Guiding you whenever you were lost in the city.
Mm-hmm.
All you know is the fact that he's apparently supposed to have a meeting with Lady Yuki, but she was apparently gone the entire day, and so his meeting, while seemingly very miffed about it, was cut short and told to come another day, pretty much, or whenever Yuki calls for him. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like as if that's happening anytime soon from what you've discovered, as late in the current day's night, you heard a strange sobbing sound, and you opened the balcony window to find that Lady Yuki seemed to have been walking towards the garden in a strange regalia, very much resembling the continent of Drax's clothing, but strange in the fact that that's not normally clothing that she would wear. You did see a strange, almost like half-visible apparition seeming to try and claw and pull away from this Lady Yuki that was very resembling of the Yuki that you know. Unfortunately, fortunately, this apparition was not able to pull away before the lady disappeared, seemingly into thin air, a small ripple in the space that she disappeared through, the only sign of her passing. You quickly went out to the garden and entered into this strange space, seeing this cacophony of colors and this deafening amount of voices flooding your mind. You lost consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
At this point in time, you wake up, and as you wake up, you see a sunlit sky. At first, you kind of have the thought that you possibly had fallen unconscious and fallen asleep until morning, until sunrise. But the thing that immediately gives it away is the fact that it is unbearingly hot. You feel yourself soaked in sweat, and you look at yourself, seeing yourself in winter gear. Looking around, you can see that the garden that once had these pale green grasses and silvery white and blue flowers, hedges and trees that seemed encompassed by the winter and phantasmal water energies of the plane of water, as the land that the city now is upon is cursed no longer has these effects. You see deep green grasses and hedges, roses and tulips, hydrangeas, all sorts of different flowers, almost blindingly so. And the fact that it is such a stark contrast to the garden that you know. Sitting up fully, you can see the fact that there is a bench next to a gazebo, just sitting just outside of it, sort of like a place where someone who is passing through the garden might sort of sunbathe or sit in order to enjoy the sunlight. But very near to it, probably in case of things like heat stroke or the heat being too much, there is seemingly a gazebo with a fountain in the middle of it. It's a quite large gazebo, somewhat closer to a patio, almost. But there is a small fountain in the middle of it, and you see two people sitting next to this fountain. One of them you instantly recognize as Yuki in that same strange garb that you saw her in. This sort of like high aristocrat, like gold and red mixed with bits of like black lace and things like that. You see ruby gems adorning a small tiara, as well as what looks like might be a black opal. She looks very royal in this getup. Like she literally looks like she's actually a queen. Next to her, though, is a man in which you see her smiling at, but he's in much more low-key clothing almost. He has a simple tunic and pants on, a pair of gloves, which you see the fact that he's in the midst of taking off. You see the fact that he does have a crown on his head, though after he takes off these black leather-looking gloves and setting them to the side on a small table, he does take off the crown and set it next to that as well. He's a kind of somewhat plain-looking man. The only thing really striking about him is the fact that he has bright blonde, almost like platinum blonde, close to white hair, and very striking blue eyes. You're probably only about like 30 feet away from them, and they don't seem to realize that you're there. His line of sight does pass over you, as it looks like as if he's standing in the garden, but it just eases on by.
Interesting.
You see the fact that they're talking, but you don't hear anything coming from them. The man stands up for a moment, and he like kneels before Yuki and takes her hand, and he kind of just looks up at her with a bright smile on his face. And you see Yuki actually starts to laugh. She has this almost like serene look on her. She looks content almost. At this point, what do you do?
I guess try and step closer, see if I hear anything. Kind of going towards the gazebo. Trying to stay somewhat like hidden. Not sure if he's just an observer looking at a memory or what.
As you step closer, you don't really have anything to really hide behind. This is kind of like an open area. You kind of like skim like along like the line of like bushes and hedges and stuff like that. The short like row of hedges. But where you're currently are at, there's not really like a way for you to get over the hedge to the rest of the garden without like making too much noise.
Got it.
So you're kind of like skirting along the side of it, and as you're doing so, you kind of feel the hedge, and it feels real. It has this sort of like, it's kind of like that warmth that you feel from greenery that's been basking in the sun for like hours. That sort of natural warmth, and you feel it from the hedge as you're skimming past it. As you're getting closer, slowly, you do see that they're carrying through some sort of conversation. And during this point in time, as you are getting closer and closer over the course of about a minute, the conversation seems to go from like this sort of like calm and serene sort of conversation, looking like as if two people sort of just enjoying their time together, to something seemingly more serious as you see the fact that this man starts to slowly frown and Yuki's sort of like soft smile disappears and she looks a little upset. You're still not hearing any words though. In fact, as you're getting closer, you're noticing the fact that you're actually not hearing anything from them, not even their movements.
I test this by brushing the bush, trying to see if I hear anything from that.
As you brush your hand across the bush, you hear the soft sound of the leaves brushing across your hand. Paying more attention. Roll me a perception check, actually.
Perception. 10.
Yeah, so you feel and see as well as hear the rustling of the leaves as you brush your hand across it. You hear the sound of the fountain gently bubbling as the water runs over the sides of it into the basin below. You also hear the sounds of birds. You don't really hear anything else. It sounds almost like as if you're just like if you didn't see the fountain and the gazebo and all that stuff and you were just looking at like the trees in the garden, it almost looked like as if you're in some sort of like well-kept forest
Hmm.
from all that you're hearing with like a small stream nearby.
I guess I'll step out and like kind of somewhat in the open, see if Yuki and the other man like see me at all, like take notice of me or anything.
As you boldly step out fully into view of them, they don't seem to react to your presence.
I guess I'll try and go closer, like go to the gazebo, see if I hear anything from them.
As you go to the gazebo, being this close up, you can see the fact that uh, this man seems partially see-through.
Hmm.
Yuki does not look see-through at all. But this man looks almost like a ghost or an illusion. You still don't hear anything though from either of them.
God. I guess I'll go and try and touch Yuki.
Okay. So as you touch Yuki, you feel a strange sensation, and suddenly everything goes dark for a moment as you hear this strange, like, playback of voices. Roll me another perception check to see if you can catch any of it.
19?
So you catch bits and pieces of it, and you hear Yuki and this man talking, and it seems like as if it might have been the previous conversation for a brief moment. As you hear from the snippets that you get, they seem to be making small talk, talking about the weather, how much they miss being able to do things like this. You get the feeling that fact that this is probably a rare opportunity for them. You also hear a snippet of the fact that once of Eric saying that once everything settles down, he'll take her to see the peaks. And that's really all you get. And then suddenly you open your eyes and you take in and you try and take in a deep breath, but you can't breathe. And as you kind of are looking around, you realize that you can't really look either. And as everything comes into focus, you see Eric's face directly in front of you.
Oh.
Yukiko, darling, I know that you're worried about the rebellion and the riots, but don't worry. Me and my advisors have it completely under control. And he gives you this soft smile, like is it the soft, like reassuring smile as he grips your hands, and as you see the line of sight go down, you notice the fact that it's the clothing and the skin, the line of sight that Yuki would have, and you see this man Eric holding her hands, softly, gently. He kind of like rubs her hands a little bit, like on the back of it, in a like sort of reassuring way where you see some people do, like rubbing their back, rubbing their hands, things like that, to try and reassure them. And you feel yourself like as if you're kind of shaking with a sort of fear. And it takes a moment before you see Eric's face sort of dim a little bit. I wouldn't worry too much. You know how talented a man such as Wraithmore is. It'll be fine. We have this under control. Plus, you know the fact that the plan is almost complete. As soon as we have enough cubes, we'll be able to distribute it amongst the areas cursed by this frigid winter, and the lands will be warm again. We'll be able to start producing enough food to feed everyone. You see the line of sight suddenly go dark as it seems like as if she closes her eyes, and you feel a pressure against your head as Yuki leans forward, putting her head against his shoulder.
I know, Eric, I know. I know you have it under control, but I can't help but worry. This Wraithmore man, he has a dark look in his eyes. I don't like him. He seems too ambitious and full of greed for this supposed kindness to really hold any sort of truth.
Don't worry, that's the reason we have the knights. We have this under control. You feel a shortness of breath all of a sudden, and you feel dizzy before suddenly you see yourself once again standing in front of Yuki and the man that you now know is called Eric. And they seem frozen for a second there in time before you see the fact that you actually can hear them now. You see Yuki reach out and cup his cheek a little bit.
If anything occurs that may endanger you, make sure that you keep the knights nearby for those. Just try to be safe. There's so much greed and anger occurring right now due to the food shortages, the curse that's spreading. And your predecessors did little to alleviate the issues.
Of course, Yuki. You know that your safety as well as my own are my top priority. I wouldn't want you to be stricken by grief should anything ill befall me. And he gives her a small smile as he stands up and he starts to walk away. I believe that duty does call, though, unfortunately. Well, I'd love to stay and talk a bit more. The project won't go forward without my help, as well as... What was the name? I believe it was... Zayla, yes. Her alchemy is incredible, but she seems a little... She has a bit of a loose cannon. There's been several people who have been injured working with her. I need to keep an eye on her. I'll see you at dinner, yes? And he gives her a smile over his shoulder as he steps off of the gazebo and then just like fades out of existence as he steps away from the gazebo. And you see the fact that Yuki's face kind of brightens for a little bit, but then as he fades away, like over the course of several minutes, as you can only assume the fact that she sees him leaving the garden, her face starts to darken more and more before she finally gets up and she steps away from the gazebo as well. And as she steps off the gazebo and fades into snow, you feel a cold wind blow by you, and you feel a dizzying sensation as if the world spins around you. And as everything comes back into focus, you see yourself standing in what looks like some part of the castle. The room that you're standing in is quite large. You see Yuki among several maids sitting in various positions around this area. There are several other women as well. You can probably assume that they're all nobles except for those that are dressed as maids. It's probably a salon of some sort or something along those lines, a meeting of noble women. And they seem to be chatting amongst each other. Roll me an insight check real quick. You can tell that Yuki does not want to be there at all. She has this sort of like forced smile on her face, and she's not really talking much. Once again, you're not hearing anything.
I go to touch her.
Okay, so as you do so, once again, you feel that breathless sensation as your sight once again goes dark, and as your vision comes into focus, you see the faces of the noble women and the maids around you. The line of sight looks like as if she's like looking at this woman that's talking, but you can tell from being able to see through Yuki's own eyes that she's not focusing on this woman at all. You kind of get like snippets of conversation. You realize through this the fact that you kind of hear what Yuki's hearing. So the less she focuses on the conversation, the less you're able to understand. I need you to roll me a perception check to see how much of this you can actually catch.
Makes sense. Gaston's definitely thinking, like, when he sees her board, just like, I've seen this look, but without the smile.
It's difficult for you. You can tell the fact that it's small talk, gossips and stuff like that about some noble who's done something like irreparable, or some handsome young upcoming noble or something along those lines. Schemes that have been discovered, scandals that have been released to the public or released amongst high society, things like that. It's difficult for you to really catch any names or anything of significance, though. You see your line of sight drawing between the women as the conversation goes on, and Yuki mostly seems to just kind of give small, curt replies, trying to somewhat keep up this presence of seeming polite, but you can tell from the way that she's acting, from the way that she looks, from how she's actually listening, that she does not care. She is only here because she needs to be and not because she wants to be.
Makes sense.
As you are sitting through all of this, you see a man come walking in. He has a mask on. The mask doesn't have any sort of imagery or anything like that. It's just like a straight white mask.
Okay.
And he has this sort of like almost ratty gray and brown colored like hood and robe on. His body is completely covered. He has these kind of like worn looking black boots. And these brown gloves that you can see the fact that there's actually a hole in a couple parts of it, looking extremely worn. My lady, the king calls for you. I would suggest you stop your petty little gossips and answer his call. Despite the sort of, I guess you could say, like, sarcastic and rude way he phrased this, you feel an emotion rise up in you of a sort of like happiness and relief.
Of course, Lord Wraithmore. I will go and speak with my husband immediately. Sorry, ladies, but it seems like my husband calls for me. We'll have to cut this salon short here. Of course, take any snacks with you that you wish, or any drinks. Take your time. But I have things that I must attend to.
A lot of these noble ladies are just like, "Oh yes, of course, go, Lady Yukiko, do whatever you need, Your Majesty," and things like that. And they're giving like these pleasantries. Roll me another insight.
Insight. Sorry, also taking down notes.
Um, you can see from the looks of a lot of these noble ladies' faces, they were mostly here to meet with each other. They seem to give little care for the fact that Yuki is leaving, that the queen of all people is leaving this. They are making no moves to get up to bow to her or anything like that. They're making no moves to give her really any sort of respect.
Hmm.
And you feel a twinge of anger and sadness in your chest, as it seems like as if Yuki is feeling this at this point in time.
It's just rude.
Your vision once again goes dark as you find yourself standing right in next to the chair in which Lady Yuki was sitting in. You see her slowly, with all the dignity that she can really muster after all of this, slowly walking towards the doorway.
Go to
And
find her.
as she puts a hand on the door handle, you see the fact that this masked man, Wraithmore apparently, says to her in a low voice, which, even though it's almost like a whisper, you for some reason can hear it clearly, of him saying, "Watch your step, my lady. It's dangerous, even within the palace these days." You can almost hear the grin in his voice as he says that. And you see Yuki shudder before she just opens the door and quickly walks through it and slams it behind her. And you hear, and as your vision starts to once again darken, as the room seems to spin, you hear the giggling of the ladies in mockery of the queen. As everything comes into focus once more, you see a what looks like a audience hall. It's very large. You see the fact that there are candelabras lined up against the wall, as well as soldiers in between each candelabra. There are several chandeliers that grace the ceiling, and the ceiling itself seems to be somewhat domed. There's a large window behind the four thrones. Two of them are generally the same size. One is slightly smaller than the other one, and then one to the left and right of the two in the center are a lot smaller. You can probably assume the fact that the largest throne is for the king, the slightly smaller one is probably for the queen, and then the other two are for the king and queen's children. At this point in time, you see the fact that Eric is sitting in the king's seat, and Yuki is in the queen's seat. And as everything comes into full focus, you see what looks like a man in half-plate armor, with two swords strapped to his side, a large shield on his back, and several daggers, uh, like in a bandolier across his chest. He seems to walk very quickly up to where the king, to the steps leading up to the king's throne, and give a very deep bow as he kneels to the ground.
Hmm.
He seems to yell out something, and several other people, 6 others in total, all seem to slowly phase into existence as they are walking across this red carpet that leads up to the steps below the king's throne. And as this man seems to shout this, which once again you can't hear, you
Yeah.
see the 6 other people kneel down and give a bow towards the king.
As I'll go and touch the queen again, knowing I can't hear her again.
As you see, as your vision becomes one with Yukiko, Lady Yuki, you hear Eric next to you. At ease, Orin. For what reason do you and your knights barge into this audience chamber? You know we were in the middle of an important meeting. My apologies, my lord, but there is an unfortunate issue at this point in time. The rioters are at the gates. Not only that, but there's also strange people that were sighted within the walls. A hole was made on the eastern wall. It seems like as if some of the rioters are making their way towards this at this point in time. We can't let any men go away from the gates at this point, though. And you've already sent most of the men out into the streets to help quell the rioting and keep the people safe. We have very few people to deal with this. We need you and the queen to leave the castle immediately until we secure the situation. You feel a nervousness arise, and you see Yuki sort of like looks down at her lap, and you see her hands are in her lap, and she's gripping them very hard, and they're slightly shaking. And you hear her saying just under her voice, probably to where the king or this knight by the name of Orin can hear her.
I knew this was going to happen. I told Eric to be careful. Damn that man.
You see Eric stand up. He seems a little confused. What of the 2 people that I sent out? What of Wraithmore and Zayla? I sent them out with knights, and they said that they were going to help deal with the situation. We're supposed to have started a public meeting about the thermal cubes to give people a bit of hope, to calm them down. I don't know, my lord. I just know the fact that the people are here right now and they're rioting. They want your head. They're tired of this rationing of food. Tired of the suffering that seems to have no end. And it seems to have coalesced into them putting all the blame on you. We know that you're doing your best, Your Majesty, but the people just don't see it that way. And to leave the castle is the only way. Unfortunately, it seems that way, my lord. We don't have enough people to keep the rioters at bay, especially if there's already a hole in the wall. We don't know who made the hole, but like I said, there was already suspicious people found within the castle grounds. And as he's saying this, you hear a bang from the entry to the audience room, and the vision seems to both elongate and focus all at the same time, and the edges start to become a little fuzzy as more of the audience room now comes into full focus, and you see about 24 people strutting into the hallway. Leading them is the white masked man from before that you know as Wraithmore, and this really short, hunched over being that has this sort of like off-colored skin and these strange like ragged clothing that seems to almost like be hanging off of her body that seems almost like bulbous and too skinny all at the same time. The only reason that you can tell the fact that this is a woman is due to the fact that even though you might not want to see it, she has very little on the top half of her body. It's mostly rags. You can see the fact that there's strange like scarring and pustules and stuff like that across her body on all the parts that you can see. And she has this disgusting grin on her face as she's hobbling forward. Behind these two are about, as I said before, about 24 people. They all are dressed in a mixture of black leather and plate armor, somewhat similar to half plate, but there's more leather than there is metal to this. It's more reminiscent of breastplate. There we go. Like this black breastplate armor. They're all wearing these white masks. Well, it seems, my lord, that our contract has come to an end. The rioters are at the gates, and it seems like as if you have assassins within the walls. And he kind of gives this like low chuckle as he raises up a hand and he motions forward. And you see Eric step a couple of steps down towards them. Wraithmore, Zaleb, what are you doing? You're supposed to be out calming the people. And you see Orin stand up, hand on one blade as he starts to unsheath it, but immediately a dagger goes flipping through the air and stabs him straight in the throat. And he kind of like goes down to one knee, and it looks like he's about to collapse, but he raises up his other hand and rips out the dagger. And it looks like he's trying to say something, but he can't. And you see this pained expression on his face. Your line of sight raises up as Yuki also stands up and steps forward a couple of steps.
Someone! Step back! We can't. We must leave this place. I knew they'd betray us. Please!
I'm afraid I can't let you do that, Your Highness. We can't be letting any survivors leave here. We have what we need. Go on, Shadows, and deal with them. And you see the 24 men step forward with an almost lightning quickness. Orin unsheathes a blade and slashes across the chest of one of them and then stabs through their heart, cutting one down. And he barely pulls out another blade and kind of tries to parry another one. But you see this blood just like spurts out of his throat through this effort. And you hear this gargling, and he cuts down about 3 more before finally he gets surrounded and impaled from all sides. The rest of the knights are not faring much better. They do manage to take out a couple of these shadows, as Wraithmore called them, but by the end of it, they only were able to take down about 16 of the 22 that were here. There's still 6 left, not including the strange, disgusting woman and the masked man known as Wraithmore. Eric seems to kind of step back and drag Yuki back towards the back area. And your line of sight changes as he seems to try and run towards the back of the audience hall. He tries to pull on what looks like a nonchalant candelabra on the, not candelabra, bracket, a torch holder. What is it called? God, I can't remember the name of it. But one of the torch holders on the side of the wall, and he tries to pull it towards him, and it doesn't budge, and he looks a little confused And then you see worry start to cross his face as he keeps trying to pull this, and he's putting all of his effort. Before finally it starts to give a little bit, and you see this the stone wall start to push in a little bit, but you hear the booted footsteps of these people stepping up the stairs towards you. And your line of sight changes once more and pans towards them as you see Yuki look towards them. You feel the fear in her chest. And as this happens, you see Eric once again cross in front of your line of sight, and he pulls a sword out from behind the throne, a great sword, and he holds it in both hands. I should have listened to Yukiko as she said the fact that you'd betray us, but I wanted to believe. Why? Oh, you naive, naive little boy of a king. It's all business here. And you see Wraithmore once again motion his hand forward, and the remaining 6 shadows all start to quickly try and surround, and Eric is sort of trying to fend them off with the blade. He wounds a couple of them, but a 7th shadow that you didn't notice enter in the room steps up and actually grabs you from behind, and you kind of look over your shoulder and you hear this muffled voice by the mask. Don't move, Your Highness, or else we'll have to prematurely end your wife. And you see the fact that Eric was about to slam the blade into the side of the neck of one of these shadows, and he hears that, and he stops, and he looks over, and you see a look of anger and fear across his face before he backs away slowly. That's it, Your Highness. Put down the blade. You see a wide array of emotions cross Eric's face as a look of anger, of confusion, of sadness, and then finally like resignation as he slowly just lets the blade drop to the ground. And you see him look up towards you with these sad eyes, sort of almost what looks like tears in his eyes, as he kneels down on the ground uh, and gives a small bow towards you. I'm sorry, Yukika. No, Yuki. It seems like this is where this dream ends. And you hear the laughter ringing out from Wraithmore as he like starts to pull off the mask, and you see this mutilated face. The eyes are pure black, and he stares down and he pulls out a short sword. Ah, you naive king! I was waiting for this day. And he stabs straight through Eric's back, and you hear the crying of Yuki seem to try and pull from the man's embrace that's grabbing her with like the steely grip. She's crying out, trying to say his name, and you feel the man actually giving a surprised grunt at the amount of strength that she's actually putting into this struggle. Before finally he just lets her go and then throws her to the ground. And she starts to try and crawl towards him, but a dagger immediately stabs into her hand, and you feel this shock of pain. Roll me a wisdom save.
Wisdom save. I'm good at that. 24.
All right. You feel this shock of pain and go through the hand, and you feel it, and you feel yourself within Yuki give out this cry of pain, and you keep telling yourself, this isn't real, this is not me feeling this, and you keep telling yourself that over and over again, but you still feel the after effects as you take 3 points of psychic damage.
Ah, fun. Guess I really don't know way to pull away from this.
Nope. You hear her give out this scream of pain, as she kind of reaches a hand slowly over to try and pull out the dagger, and she grips it. And she tries to slightly like pull it, but she gives out this kind of whimper as she does so, and she like lets it go, and she just reaches out a hand towards Eric. And you see a black boot step into your line of sight, and as you look up, you see it's one of the shadows, and the shadow holds out a long sword that's covered in blood, probably from one of the previous knights. And he's kind of like playing around with the blade before just with one quick stroke. You see Eric kind of give, looking like as if he's trying to say something towards you as you look towards them, and then the blade crosses in front of your eyes, and you see Eric's head go flying from his body. And you hear this heart-wrenching scream of grief rip through Yukiko's throat. And as she's reaching out, you feel once again more pain go shock through you as her hand that was reached out gets stabbed into the ground by another dagger. Roll me another wisdom save.
Oh boy. 12.
You take 9 points of psychic damage.
Oh god.
You feel this, you feel like as if you're being spiritually exhausted, like as if it's your soul itself being injured by this. This is way too real to be any sort of illusion. It's almost like as if you went back into her past and are experiencing it firsthand through her own body. The scream sort of like dies down, and it's just these whimpering sobs of grief. And as she's crying out, she's looking at Eric's headless body. And she sees this mask come into her vision, and she kind of looks up towards it. The vision now is somewhat blurry with tears. Well, hello, Your Majesty. Seems you're in somewhat of a predicament, aren't you? Do you want to know the reason why we did this? And you see the fact that he's kind of playing with one of the handles of the daggers as he's saying this. And he twists it, and she gives out another scream of pain. Roll me another wisdom save.
21.
You're able to somewhat disconnect yourself with it at this point in time. You feel the pain, but you know this is not real. You don't take any damage from this one. But you feel the pain that she's going through. And she lets out another cry, and you feel you feel and see her vision just sort of like black out for a moment before there's these like sounds of slapping, and you register the fact that your cheek is being slapped, and the vision comes back into this sort of blurry focus as Yuki seems to raise her head up from the ground and look up. No, don't go fainting on me just yet, dear. I haven't even told you the reason why we're doing this. And he rips out the dagger, and she gives out another cry of pain. And you see the fact that she's looking at it, and there's this hole, probably about 5 inches across in her hand, from where this dagger was stabbed through and then like twisted around. And her hand is just sort of shaking as she's looking at this, and then she slowly looks up towards Wraithmore. You see, there was something within the castle that we just really needed for our lord. Your king, your husband, promised it in return for our assistance, and we decided to play along with this little game. At least until we were able to find it. After that, I mean, all it took was just breaking into the place and stealing it. No reason to play around at that point, but it was more useful for this kingdom to fall for our current plans. You see, we're in the middle of doing another ritual. A ritual to Oh, what goddess does that woman worship? I believe it was the enemy of your goddess, some god of darkness. Shah. Yes, that was it. And the easiest way to do that is to let a place such as this just fall into darkness. Much more easier to commence such rituals in place of negative emotions, you know. And he walks over to the other dagger. So, and he's starting to play with the handle once again. The easiest way to do that was to, and he grabs the handle, and you see he kind of like with his other hand forces her face up to look into his face. To start a riot and kill the king. Complete anarchy. And as he says that, he twists the dagger and she lets out another hoarse cry of pain. Give me another wisdom save.
God. 13. Oh god. I'm probably gonna go out.
This time the pain is a little too much for you. And you feel this this psychic this feeling directly into your soul, this psychic like energy, as if the pain is being transmitted directly to your body, rip through you, and you take another 4 points of damage.
I have one more point and I am gone.
Yep. The vision once again blacks out, and as the blurry line of sight finally comes back to where you can actually see, you hear this creature saying, "Now you didn't kill her yet, did you? We can't exactly have that happen. We have to go through with the experiment, after all." "Oh, yes, I know, Zayla. It's fine. She's not dead yet. Go on, you wake her up." "Oh, actually, look at that. She came back into consciousness on her own. Good morning, darling. Now, if you wouldn't mind, don't fall unconscious on us again this time." You feel a dread watch over you. Fear, dread, pain, sadness, anger, more and more anger, and this feeling of why, popping up over and over again. See, we're going to have to give you this little concoction. See what this does to the human body. I'm hoping it won't kill you, but we'll see what happens. And you feel this agonizing pain go through both your arms as you see Yukiko like trying to like drag herself away. No, you can't do that. Here. And you see Wraithmore step close and grab one of her arms and like drag her up. And she kind of like tries to pull the arm free, and seemingly surprised by the actual resistance, the arm does slip free and she like starts to collapse to the ground, and you feel a pain in the back of your skull as her hair is like ripped upwards, and you see the face of the mask directly in front of you. "Now, you little bitch, listen here. Do what I need you to, and this will be quick and far less painful than what you've gone through so far. Now drink this." And you see this bottle of this black ichor come into view. It smells horrendous, and it's like shoved directly into your face, into Yuki's face. And she kind of like tries to resist drinking it, and he sort of like forces it into her mouth, and she starts to choke on it, and you feel this horrible taste of like as if you're like eating rotten meat. And the smell and the taste just starts to like engulf your senses. And she kind of like gags down some of it. And he just throws her to the ground. And you feel this strange sensation of this intense coldness in the pit of your stomach that seems to slowly spread outwards. and she kind of like reaches a hand forward, trying to drag herself away once more. How long do you think this is going to take? Oh, hopefully nothing more than just a few minutes. But we'll have to wait and see. After all, this is an experiment to see exactly what would happen should we use this creature's blood. You see that the two people, seemingly Zayla, this unearthly woman, if she can even be called that, and Wraithmore, kind of like sit down on the thrones that seem to have been turned around as they watch you kind of like crawl towards the wall. And Yukiko's like kind of watching them as she's like painfully dragging herself away. These like she seems like as if she's like trying to sob, almost like to cry, but her throat is so hoarse from the screams and cries from earlier that she can let out nothing more than just like a hoarse whisper of a whimper as she like sits herself up against the wall, and you see the fact that she's kind of like looking between them and the bracket where the torch was resting on the wall that Eric earlier was trying to pull down, and she's like trying to like unsteadily claw her way into a standing position to try and grab that, and you see this strange darkening on her skin. And you realize the fact that this cold sensation that started in the pit of your stomach is spreading very rapidly throughout the rest of your body. And the skin starts to darken and kind of gray, and you see the veins beneath the skin start to darken and turn black slowly. This corruption seeming to spread down her arm into her hands, and she kind of like she sees this, and she kind of like gives out this hoarse cry, and the blood that's slowly seeping through the wounds on her hands starts to like get tainted with this kind of black liquor. And it only takes a couple more minutes as she's like kind of trying to claw away at her skin and like pull away at her clothes, almost half naked now. You see that all the veins on her skin as she's examining herself have turned black. Her skin having turned almost completely gray at this point in time. The cold sensation has become almost unbearingly so. It's starting to turn painful. And you feel your veins start to like almost burn with this coldness, and she starts to give out these hoarse cries of pain. But even those cries seem painful as she gives this like kind of cough that you feel is agonizing, absolutely agonizing. And as she coughs, she looks down at the thing that came out of her throat, and it's this strange black blood. And her vision starts to kind of blur even more as she feels, as you feel this sort of coldness start to completely consume your body. And you collapse to the ground. She collapsed to the ground. And you kind of hear almost seemingly stupidly far, like extremely distant from you, the sound of Wraithmore giving a sigh. Well, I guess it's too soon to be used in human trials, at least for anybody that we want alive. Oh, this research was fruitful. I'm glad that we got what we needed. And job well done. Place in chaos, perfect place to do your ritual of darkness. And you hear Zayla giving off this kind of like raucous laughter that sounds almost like as if it's like almost like monstrous in sound. And everything starts to go cold. Your vision completely darkens. And you feel an intense sensation of fear. Yuki's fear as she realizes the fact that she's about to die. And she's literally feeling herself slowly die over the course of these several minutes. And even you can't see it, you can't really even almost feel it, but you have this sensation that Yuki is trying to reach out in the direction of Eric before everything goes completely dark, and you are forcefully cast out from her body. You see Wraithmore and Zayla walking away. You can no longer hear them at all. They seem like as if they're talking to each other. Wraithmore's shoulders shaking, like as if he's laughing. And you can see the surroundings of the shadows seeming to start to clean up the bodies of the knights, but they don't touch the headless king's body, nor do they touch Yuki's body. You can see the fact that Yuki is now seeming having lost an inhuman amount of blood. There is so much blood, most of it now tainted with this black ichor, as you can see the fact that the reason her vision was going so blurry is because of the fact that she actually started bleeding from her eyes. Her ears were bleeding. The reason why everything was starting to sound so distant. She was also bleeding from her nose, from her mouth. Literally every orifice was starting to bleed this strange black blood. And she looks absolutely horrifying in this place, seeming almost desiccated, grayed skin, as you see her hand kind of reached out towards the direction of Eric's body. Suddenly, everything seems to start being moving in a very fast pace. You see dozens upon dozens of these people in ragged clothing. A lot of them not wearing shoes. Some of them carrying like hammers, like cutlery knives and forks. Chipped swords and things like that. Some swords being more nice. Some axes, like wood cutting axes and things like that. You have an idea that this is probably the rioters, and they kind of come in and seem to uh, run up to the body of the king and the queen, and they kind of all stop for a moment, and then in an insanely fast motion, you see the fact that this seemingly insane crowd starts to literally rip them limb from limb, absolutely mutilating their bodies. And they start to tear down. They tear down the thrones and set fire to them. They tear down all the candelabras. They break the windows. They uh, rip apart the carpets. They take down the paintings and start to rip them apart, some of them seeming to try and steal them. It is absolute chaos within this audience room. And it takes place in a short span of time of just a couple minutes over this course, but what probably took hours and hours. And then you see some people dragging in what looks like nobles from the looks of their clothing, though some of them having been looking like as if they'd been like ripped apart. The clothing's like ripped apart. You see like tears through some of the women's makeup as they seem to be crying in fear. And a lot of these people get just executed right then and there. And there's like almost like this blood frenzy going on amongst these people as just more and more of these knights, these servants, these nobles are getting pulled into this audience chamber and being executed and mutilated one after the other. And finally they leave, and then everything goes quiet, or seemingly does. You see the fact that the sun quickly sets, the moon rises, and this happens over and over and over again until you lose track of the amount of days. You see the corpses in front of you start to slowly decay and desiccate. You see some of the corpses become bloated. Flies and other such things start to like feast on them. You see crows come in through the broken windows, and you try and move, but you can't. And dozens, maybe hundreds, maybe thousands of days pass. And every once in a while, you see a random person come in, seemingly dressed in possibly like tribal clothing. Some of them seeming more well armored. You can maybe imagine the fact that they might be traveling adventurers and stuff like that. Most of them kind of rummage around in the room a little bit and then leave after seeing the fact that there's nothing of really any value here. Over this course, the corpses finally become nothing but bones. And as this happens, everything suddenly seems to freeze. And you feel, even though you know this is an illusion, you feel this absolute dread in your bones, in your body. And you feel this energy coming from behind you, this hate-filled, wrathful energy. And as you slowly are finally able to turn around and look, you see the bones of Yuki's corpse start to rattle. And then from the outstretched hand, you see a ghostly apparition start to slowly rise up the hand. And seeming with extreme amount of effort, the ghostly form of Yuki, in the form that you know her now, in the kimono and everything, starts to slowly rip herself from the corpse. The demonic look, the frozen black hair, the claws, the blood-filled tear streaks down her eyes, the absolute pure black eyes, the hate-filled gaze as you hear this echoing cry.
I will never forgive them.
And then your vision goes black. You hear those last words from Yuki echo over and over again in your head. And you feel like as if you can't help but keep shivering from the amount of wrath in those words. You can tell the fact that whenever she came back, she probably killed anyone that was in her path. She came back as a vengeful spirit. Whatever she is now is different from what she came back as, but you can see the origin of her spirit. And you feel this shiver down in your bones at the knowledge of what exactly it is that you're dealing with. And then you realize the fact that this shivering isn't completely totally you. You feel your body being shaken, and slowly you're able to start hearing things again. And you realize the fact that your name is being called.
Casron, come on, wake up! Oh my goodness, if you've fallen into a coma, what the heck am I supposed to do with you now? You're supposed to be a jester, not some dead person on my hands. If I wanted to kill you, I would have done it already. Wake up, damn it!
Kind of opening up.
You open your eyes. Yeah, you open your eyes, and you feel this aching in your body. And you feel absolutely exhausted, completely drained. And you see Yuki's face directly in front of you. The face that you know, not the demonic face. And she has this look of, like, exasperation on her face. And as you kind of look around, you realize the fact that it seems to be morning. And you're lying down in the middle of the garden. The garden is as you currently know it. The pale green grass, the silvery white and blue flowers and leaves, the cold energy, the cursed greenery of the north. It's the garden that you know. You see, as you wake up, the exasperation turns into a look of annoyance.
Well, if I knew the fact that you were going to pass out in the middle of the garden, I would have at least made a bed up here for you. What are you doing out here?
It's... Got caught in a midnight stroll.
You see her eyes narrow. And she kind of gives a sigh, and you see a look of resignation pass across her face.
I'm surprised you managed to survive that ordeal. Most people know to stay away whenever I stroll to the garden.
Got a bit concerned, I guess.
Concerned about someone keeping you prisoner. Man, you are a fool, aren't you?
Tesson shrugs.
As you kind of like gain your bearings and are like kind of like partially sitting up, you see the fact that her body seems thinner than normal. Her presence also seems thinner. She looks as you know her, but roll me an insight check as she feels different.
Inside.
You can tell the fact that her presence is a little thinner, and her body itself is also a little bit thinner.
17.
She seems to be trying to put up a front on the fact that she seems weak. You kind of hear as she kind of like makes fun of you a little bit as talking with you, that there's a slight tremor in her voice. She seems like as if she's really weak right now.
My lady, I mean no disrespect, but are you alright? You look, thinner.
You see her. You see a sharpness to her eyes as she looks towards you, and the sort of sultry glances and looks, as well as the kind of joking things that she was saying. The joking looks, the sultry glances, all just to sort of like poke fun at you and stuff like that. Immediately disappear.
Well, it seems like as if that's not something I'm hiding. Very well, yes. Sometimes I have to relive my last days. Some sort of, maybe curse. I don't know what it is. But it weakens me on the following day. If you're ready to end me, now is your chance, Chester.
And she kind of like opens her arms wide, like as if she's waiting.
Castron will brush himself off. I think I'm good for now. Though, I guess I could do this. And he will go in and hug her.
You feel her stiffen whenever you hug her. And she just kind of puts her arms down to her side.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Attempting to give you any comfort, but I suppose it's not working. Kind of goes to break off.
As you break off from the hug, she has this obvious look of shock across her face. And you see several other emotions sort of go across her face all at the same time before she looks confused.
I haven't.
I don't understand why exactly.
I understand a lot of your feelings. Not personal to you, but the rage, anger, losing the most important person to you. Seeing it again through someone else's eyes, it just... yeah.
Ah, yes. I guess I'm sorry to hear that.
She kind of like turns away from you and starts to like take a few steps away.
I should go and rest. You as well. You're not looking so good. Yes.
And then she just like starts to quickly just walk away.
Castor will actually go up and catch up to her and gently kind of take her arm and go to whisper, just though something of warning. Not sure if you know of them, but a man named of Arswick, don't trust him.
She stiffens once more whenever you grab her arm, and then she kind of like shivers a bit for a moment whenever you whisper into her ear. And she kind of like looks over to you, just like, what the heck are you doing kind of look. And then whenever you say that, you see the look of like question go into a look of like resoluteness.
As a member of my court, Casron, I will take your suggestion of guidance under counsel. I'll keep it in mind. Thank you.
Castor will nod and smile. He told me he apparently is waiting 2 others to follow with. Not sure if they'll show. Apparently they're running late.
I see. Yes, I should probably go and meet with them now. Get this out of the way.
You should rest first, my lady. No disrespect, but...
No. It'd be better for me to understand what exactly it is that he wants before his friends come along. If things get violent, it'd be better the fact that I know ahead of time.
Castorn will nod. I may not be much of help, but at least try and stay in the shadows and watch.
As you wish.
She seems to genuinely not mind if you stand in on this.
Got it.
She starts to with a sort of renewed vigor almost. You see the fact that she every once in a while she sort of like her hand might like kind of shiver a little bit, and she kind of like scratches at the back of it, like as if still feeling that sort of like biting coldness under her skin.
I will
But,
just out of
kind of,
paranoia. I don't know if it'll help her, but at least try it. Where is it? Healing word. There we go. I will at least do that.
you cast healing word on her.
Yeah. I don't know if that'll work. Did I hurt her? I feel bad.
Generally, under D&D 5e standards, you did not. So no, you didn't. But there is no effect, and you see the fact that she has this look of discomfort come across her face as you call out this healing word, and
Castor
kind
will
of
pause
looks
at
at you
that and just.
with this dumbfounded look.
Right, does not work.
Of course it doesn't
Apology.
work. I'm dead.
Apologies.
She looks genuinely dumbfounded, just like, what is this man doing?
Never mind, keep going. I apologize.
All right, so
Have good
you
intentions,
feel like
I'm an idiot.
you two start to walk along, and this dumbfounded look doesn't leave Yuki's face for a while, and then she just starts to laugh. She's just like, I can't. She's like, I can't believe you tried to heal me, kind of thing, and she starts like going on about it, and she's like, she finds it absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, and I cast a little, just like, look, I have good intentions. I'm an idiot. I apologize. I'm lucky enough I didn't hurt you.
Oh, don't worry. A spell of that level wouldn't be able to hurt me, my little jester, but it just...
He's definitely...
A dead person. Just, I can't get over it. I'm sorry.
He's definitely, like, putting his hand up over his eyes, like, I am embarrassed.
So you two make your way along, and you see the fact that some of the servants within the castle give sighs of relief whenever they first see their lady, but then they see you beside her, and they have a look of like suspicion and confusion. And one of the butlers comes up and whispers something to her, and she just shakes her head.
It's fine, Daniel. It's fine. I've allowed him here.
And he just kind of gives a little bit of a bow before he walks away. With her saying that, you see a lot of the suspicious glances from these people disappear for the most part. There's still a few that kind of are looking at you, just like kind of like, what the hell are you doing with the lady when she's weak, kind of thing. And you can tell the fact that they're worried about her, and they all know.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty obvious. They have these looks of worry and relief at the same time, and then these looks of suspicion and confusion whenever they see you near her.
Yeah, makes sense.
So over the course of like the next probably about like 10 minutes, as she slowly makes her way to what you now know is the audience hall. You actually haven't been in the audience hall this entire time.
Mm-hmm.
She seems to have, for the most part, avoided this area, even whenever she was leading you around the castle.
Makes sense.
You easily recognize it as the doors are pushed open, and you feel this sort of like phantom pain and fear come across your body as you step into it. And you can almost smell the decaying corpses and the burning of the different parts of the castle in here. You hear the echoing of the screams of terror and like the horrifying laughter from the blood frenzied crowd. And as you step in, you see the fact that despite the rest of the castle seeming to have been somewhat like renovated and kept up to standards, this place is not. It looks pretty much even worse than what it is in your memory. The windows on the back are all broken. There are still bones that litter the audience hall. The chairs are pretty much like charred cinders of what they once were. Only like bits and pieces of the wood, as well as like bits of metal that weren't like scavenged away, sort of glinting in the light. And you see the ripped apart paintings, the like destroyed candelabras, and crashed down chandeliers. Yuki pauses, and you see the fact that she seems to kind of like steel herself for a moment before she steps into the hall. And she goes to the very end where the thrones in her memory were. And she kind of stands there and stares at him for a moment before she kind of whips around her hand, and the snow kind of coalesces into a chair and solidifies. And she sits down.
I will actually go and like stand behind the throne, keeping myself hidden.
And she calls out in a surprisingly strong voice for the servants to bring the man known as Arswick here. And it takes about another dozen or so minutes before a man, probably another butler, seems to step into here and give a bow towards Yuki. and announces Arswick's arrival. Well, my lady, it took you long enough. Sorry, I'm a little frustrated. He kind of like coughs a little bit and like straightens up, and he gives a deep bow. Thank you for meeting me, my lady. I was hoping to meet you sooner, but I'm still glad to be graced with your presence. And he seems to not care about the bones and the pretty much like completely desecrated audience hall. And he walks forward.
That's close enough. What was your name? Arswick? Tell me what you need, and then leave.
You hear the booted feet stop. Very well. My lord and compatriots wish to broker a deal with you. We need a base of operations within the north while we enact a few things. In recompense for your aid by giving us a place to rest and act out from, we will give you aid in acquiring the stolen items from your city. Should you do so, we will also aid in the defense of your city during the time in which we stay here. But we ask that you give us a non-interference agreement. We stay in a part of the city and you don't interfere with us, and we protect the city from that direction and aid you in the defense should anybody attack. But otherwise, are left to our own devices. We're also willing to pay in gold, jewels, clothing, slaves if need be. And we're also open to suggestions should you wish to change this deal in any way. I do have a couple of compatriots who are making their way here. A powerful alchemist and a just as powerful, if not even more so, mage. If there's anything that you wish to have created or cast, enchanted, anything like that, these two should be able to help broker this deal between us. There's a long pause of silence before you hear Yukiko shift in the chair, seeming to like kind of lounge on one side of it.
I know your name. What are the name of your companions? After all, I would like to know who I'm supposed to be making this deal with. And who is this person you keep calling your master, your lord, whatever? Pray do tell. After all, I'm not one for getting into inconvenient bargains, and even less to trust strangers.
I see no harm in this. Fine. The mage is an inhuman woman by the name of Leone. She was once human, but due to certain situations, she now inhabits, what are they called? A bastion units, I believe. Something from the south. The other one is a somewhat renowned alchemist within our empire. Somewhat hideous woman by the name of Zayla. You hear him say Zayla, and immediately you hear a crunch of this frozen throne cracking under the pressure of her grip. And you feel this cold aura start to envelop you.
Did you say Zayla?
Yes, her name is Zayla.
And what, pray tell, does she look like?
Quite unappetizing, to be honest. Pustules and warts, off-colored skin, hunched over body, quite short as well. You see the throne shatter into pieces before your eyes, and you have to like kind of cover your face as much as possible. Roll me a dexterity save.
Yep. Dexterity. Hell. Luck of the dice, this one. 6.
You try and like cover your eyes, but the shattering of this throne is too sudden and too quick, and the shards of the frozen snow, the ice, get into your eyes. You don't take any damage, but for the next minute, you are blinded.
Can't heal that.
You can't see her, but you feel and hear Yukiko take a step forward. That same hatred and anger seeming to overwhelm you as this frigid cold wind starts to seem to swirl around. You feel your clothes being picked up by this breeze.
Your name was Orswick, if I remember correctly. I'm having a difficult time holding my temper, so what say you? How about you leave and don't return with either of your companions? I'll let you live. You haven't done anything wrong to me, but one of your other ones have. And right now I don't feel like killing anyone, but this could game change very quickly should you choose the wrong answer. What say you?
You see, not you see, but you hear her take the a few steps forward, seeming to like try and intimidate him. And there's this kind of quiet pause, only this wind that is slowly starting to pick up more and more as you feel her anger starting to build. Before you hear a booted foot step back onto the stone floor. I take it that is a no to the deal then?
Yes, that's a no! Get out of my castle! Get out of my city! You step foot in it again, that'll be the last step you take.
Very well, my lady. I'll take my leave now. I am sorry that it came to this. And you hear Ardwick start to walk away across the stone floor. You feel the wind start to drop even more in temperature, and it starts to pick up more and more. And you no longer hear the footsteps of Arswick, but you hear Yukiko seeming to start to hyperventilate. She starts taking these deep breaths, like, and after a moment, she just lets out this scream. And you hear this scraping of what almost sounds like steel across stone that like almost seems to shatter your eardrums. And you hear this over and over and over again, and your ears start to become numb from this uncomfortable noise. And finally, your vision starts to somewhat clear as the fragments of the ice kind of start to melt away, and your eyes no longer feel that intense pain. And you look, and you see Yuki in this demonic form that you've seen her in before. The claws out as they're partially like halfway in the stone, and you see these claw marks all across the ground and the walls. and you see her hyperventilating before she just rips the claws out with that kind of like screech of steel on stone. Before she turns to you, this light, it doesn't even look like she recognizes you for a moment. And she kind of takes a few hurried steps towards you. And then you see the sanity finally come to her face. And her her heavy breathing starts to somewhat diminish.
I'm sorry for that unsightly display. I lost myself for a moment there.
Catherine shakes his head. Understandable. Mainly just thankful you didn't slice me.
Not that far gone.
She moves over to where the thrones sat once more. Now there are shards of ice. She stands almost directly next to you, but she stares down at the throne area. And then she steps past you, a little bit behind where the thrones were, to a specific location. And she stands there, and then she kneels down on the ground and just sits there and stares at the location. And you see the images of her memories kind of flit across your mind, and you remember that that is the exact location where Eric died.
Yeah.
Centuries later, and I still can't forget where he died. No matter. It's not the time for sentiments.
She takes in a few more deep breaths, and then she stands up. And she looks towards you, and this impassive look on her face kind of gives you this feeling that she's decided something.
Hesron, you being here, me taking you, actually provides me with a good opportunity. Despite some of the things that you may have seen, I'm sure that other things that you've seen has shown you the fact that I mean well. I just want to protect what my husband left behind.
Catherine nods.
Help me. Help me get back what they took. And I will give them whatever aid they want. Be my messenger, my ambassador if you want, please.
Very well. Well, it's gonna be some convincing with her, but I'm sure I can at least do my best to make her understand. Plus, if I can tell her that you'll aid her. She's been using them to keep her own people warm.
Tell her that she is more than free to move to my city. I don't care who lives here. As long as they mean no harm to my city and what my husband left behind.
Catherine nods. Very well.
I can transport you to our location. Or at least, do you have an idea if she's still within the village? I know that she was supposed to meet with the... What was it called? Red Tribe?
The Red Eagle Tribe, yes, with...
The Red Eagle Tribe.
Yes, what is this?
The new chieftain of the Red Eagle Tribe. Do you know if she's still in the village, or has she left for that?
I'm pretty sure she's left for that. I was supposed to go with them that day that I got swept away by the storm.
Very well. I can transport you there.
Catherine will smile and nod. Thank you.
It will have to be on tomorrow. My strength isn't quite replenished yet, and I unintentionally exhausted much of what I had left.
Cast on a smile and nod. That's understandable. And plus, it is
I'll
nice.
send you on the winds of a storm. I'll make sure that there's a safe bubble in which you can ride the storm out. I'll send you all the way to the south. All you have to do is announce when you're at your destination, and the winds will stop.
Very well. Sounds like a fun grand entrance.
She gives you a little bit of a weak smile before she looks back at the location in which Eric died.
If you don't mind, you can go and rest up. I need some time.
Caswan nods. I understand. Have a good day, my lady. And he turns and looks over where Eric died. He looked like he loved you greatly. And I'm sure he doesn't want to see you in more pain. Though, knowing the true pain myself, it's hard not to be. He said, kind of rubbing his ear where that, where the earring is.
As you say this, you see Yuki's shoulders start to shake, and she gives out a sob, and you see tears start to come down her face, and the tears that drip and fall to the ground freeze, and kind of give like a soft like tink 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 sound
Aww.
as they hit the ground.
Thank you, but I need some time, please.
Castron nods and will turn to leave.
As you leave, all you hear are Yuki's quiet sobs. You have the rest of the day available to you. At this point in time, it is only around 10 in the morning.
Cool. As Castron leaves the chamber, he'll kind of pull off the mask a bit and rub his own face with his sleeve and then place it back on, steel himself again, and start heading down.
All right.
Let's see. Is there a library? Let's try and find a library.
Yes. There is a library that you were shown. It's pretty much like kind of across the castle from where you are. You have to go through like a bunch of different hallways and enter in like a completely different wing from where you are. But after a bit of time, you finally do make your way there. You do see the fact that there is a maid that's sort of like dusting off some of like the shelves and things like that in there, refilling like oil for some of the lanterns that are there in case of any late night reading or anything like that. And she sees you, and she kind of like stiffens up for a moment before she just gives you a small smile and then gives you a bow.
Castron smiles.
She doesn't say anything to you, and as you walk in fully into the library, you get a closer look, and you see the fact that there's this scars across her throat.
Oh. Probably can't speak then.
Oh, do you say that out loud?
No, that's me thinking out loud.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah. Hello? I was wondering if maybe you had like a history section, mainly for this area. I'm new to the north, and I'd like to learn some more things.
you see the fact that she gives you a little bow before she reaches into like a front pocket on her apron and pulls out what looks like a piece of charcoal and like a board almost, and she scribbles something on it, and she shows it to you, and you can't read it. It is a different language from one that you know.
Unfortunately, my lady, I cannot read that. Do you know any other languages to write in? I know
She
dwarf.
looks surprised and confused for a moment there, and then she kind of thinks for a moment, and then she writes something else across the board. And you can read this one. This one is in Elvish, and it says, "Do you not speak Infernal, or
Casson
do you not know Infernal?"
swallows. No, I never quite learned Infernal. I was a surprise child, so fortunately wasn't
Yeah,
taught the language.
it's actually a little surprising the fact that this woman knows Infernal, considering she looks 100% human.
Yeah, definitely catches Casson off guard, just like, shit.
And you see the fact that she kind of like erases it, and then she writes something else on the board with the charcoal. It reads, "My apologies, since you're a tiefling, I figured that you would know that language. I don't know the common language, so we'll have to converse in Elvish."
Casson will nod and smile. Elvish is perfectly fine, and don't be too apologetic. You're not the first one.
Yeah. She kind of like thinks about it for a moment, and then she like kind of hurriedly erases something, and then she writes something on there. "My apologies, I can't write common. I can understand it fine."
Alright. Well, then I'll continue speaking in common.
She gives you a small smile. She looks a little bit on the plain side. She has kind of like bob cut, light brown hair and brown eyes, a little bit of like freckles dotting across her face.
Aw,
And
she's cute.
yeah, she's cute, but she's a little on the plain side. Like there's none of that like outrageous beauty that you've seen
Yeah.
a decent amount of people within the north, surprisingly enough, actually have, such as like Irsa and Kari, as well as Yuki herself.
Mm-hmm.
She's cute, but she's still a little bit on the plain side, and it's kind of all the more enhanced by the look of the maid's clothes, which are, as you would imagine, traditional looking maid's clothes.
That's cool.
I thought about making it look different, but I decided not to.
That's
Uh, anyways, uh, she kind of motions for you to follow her, and she starts to walk between a bunch of the shelves in the book in the library, almost at the bookstore.
fine. Can I buy the books? I'm kidding.
Nope,
No,
unfortunately, you cannot buy the books.
yeah. Plus, they're probably part of Yuki's personal collection. She doesn't like things being taken, so these stay here.
Yeah. You do see the fact that a lot of these books look ancient. Like the pages and parchments are like yellowed and kind of frail looking.
That was my hope. Yes. Old books.
This maid leads you in like in a maze between all these bookshelves, and the library is actually deceptively large. There's probably a few minutes of walking before she goes to a set of stairs that actually go down, and she takes a little device, and it kind of looks almost like a lamp, or like a genie sort of lamp, or a or something along those lines. And she kind of like tips it towards a part of the wall that seems to be indented inwards, and then you see the fact that she pushes something on top of it, and you hear this click sound, and then immediately this flame blazes out down the stairway
Oh,
around the
wow.
outside wall. And you can see the fact that it starts lighting up the entirety of the stairwell as this flame goes spiraling down the staircase. And she starts to just nonchalantly, she sets it off to the side, and she starts just to nonchalantly just start to walk down the stairs.
I will go to follow her. Still kind of just looking at everything like, my god, if I was here with Bastion, he wouldn't be able to keep his hands off of anything.
You see some sort of strange script on the walls. Some of them seem to kind of like faintly glow. And the ones that are faintly glowing, you see this maid stop, and she seems to hold out some sort of token from her neck that was apparently stuffed into the maid uniform. And the sigil seems to glow from white into this faint blue color. And then after it turns blue, she stuffs this this item, this token, back into her maid uniform, and then continues walking, kind of like looking over her shoulder, like as if to make sure that you're following her.
Yep, I'm following.
There are several of these, and you notice the fact that after a few like steps after you pass, the sigils go from this faint blue glow to back to this faint white glow. You have the inkling, the fact that the blue glow probably means it's safe to pass, and the white glow probably means it's active. A few of these later, a few minutes later, probably about 5 minutes later, you come to this landing, and there is a decrepit-looking wooden door that, by all honesty, looks like as if it's probably about to fall apart at any moment.
Yeah.
And on this door is another one of these sigils. And once again, this maid holds out this sort of like amulet token from her neck, and the sigil glows blue, and then the door seems to struggle for a moment before, like, you hear as it creaks open. And inside is a very dark but dusty room, as you see dust just kind of out of the room from the door opening. And you can't help but sneeze for a moment. You see the fact that she's not really making any noise as she does so, but the maid is also kind of like waving away the dust in her face and kind of looking like as if she's coughing a bit. Just kind of letting out this like kind of sound.
Mm-hmm.
And she gives you this sort of apologetic look before she steps in.
That's
And
fine. I'm sure not anyone really goes for history books here.
she starts like kind of what looks like she's feeling around some area within this darkness. It looks like as if she can't see. You stepping in, you can see the fact that she seems to be reaching into this sort of like small alcove right next to the door, feeling around for something. And you see another one of those devices that she used earlier, as well as this groove right below it. And she's like trying to feel around in the alcove, seeming like as if she's searching for something.
I guess I'd help her look for something? I don't know what to look for.
Well, there's only that strange, like kind of like genie lamp like device in that alcove. That's it. It's like hanging on the wall, but she's like kind of feeling along the bottom of the alcove, like as if she thinks that the thing that she's looking for is there.
I look for the genie lamp thing then?
You see it. You have darkness. You see it hanging on the
that
wall
makes
in
sense.
the little alcove. That's what I'm saying. She thinks it's on the bottom of the alcove, but you see the fact that it seems to be hanging on a hook on the wall.
I will gently tap her on the shoulder and like, dear, it's over here, and gently take her hand and place it there for her.
As you tap her on the shoulder, she kind of like stiffens for a moment, and then you grab her hand, and you feel her violently pull away from you. And in the darkness, you can barely see it on her face, but there's this look of absolute terror as her eyes have glazed over.
I'm sorry, kind of like, definitely like raising my hands up. I was only trying to help, I apologize. Should have asked
She like
permission.
she kind of shakingly reaches a hand out towards the alcove, and she starts to like kind of feel along the bottom of it, and then you see the fact that she's slowly feeling up the side of the wall before she grabs like the small neck of this lamp, and she pulls it off with like a jerk, and she quickly, like with shaking hands, pushes the button on the thing, and you see a little flame at the very end of it, and you hear this soft like sound that you didn't really hear before, as it happened almost instantly last time, and she like it's starting to feel around towards the base of the alcove towards the groove, and she hits the groove with the flame, and you see immediately this flame spreads out quickly along the wall, and you see the fact that it seems to have been put to where it goes across multiple levels, as the flame kind of divides into two and then into three along it, and you see flames start to circle around the entire room as you're on sort of like this like balcony like area overlooking the bookshelves from above. And you see the fact that she puts it not on the hook, but on the ground of the alcove. And she kind of looks at you and she gives you this bow before she kind of like stands off to the side. And she, like, with shaking hands, writes in Elvish, "I'm sorry, I don't like people touching me."
Castthorn will nod. It's fine. I should have just grabbed it. I apologize again.
And she just kind of shakes her head before she steps off to the side. She's not looking you in the face at this point in time. She steps off to the side, just sort of like motions you in to the library.
Yep, I will go to the library.
So like I said before, you're pretty much on this like balcony-like area. There's some bookshelves up on this like balcony, but just browsing through them, they seem to be more of just like travel guides almost, and things like that. Like they have like histories of like unique locations and stuff like that. One of them's talking about like sights to see in the city of Austria, and then there's another one that's just like check out the findings in the Green Wood and stuff like that. And it's just like things like that over and over again. What exactly are you looking for?
Maybe old maps to like try and kinda even though I don't have the map. Oh damn, I should ask for paper. Kinda like jot down like what to somewhat look for on our journey. And then I don't know.
Then you came to the wrong place. You asked for history books. Maps are not history books.
Well, also like history of the area, which is something else I want to do. Like past history of like the old king and the old great king and anything. Also, let's look for anything history wise on like the elemental hearts.
Slim down your search. What do you want to look for first?
Elemental hearts.
Okay. So, roll me an investigation check.
Investigation. 13.
You start to look around. Obviously, it's not on this like balcony part of this library. You go down this slowly spiraling staircase into the somewhat like kind of like basement library proper almost. As you make your way down, there is dust, thick coatings of dust over everything.
Gross.
And surprisingly, even though that is the case, you actually don't see any sort of like ruin on the books from like rodents or other pests possibly having gotten into this area. In fact, you've actually seen a surprising lack of pests within the castle just generally. But you look through these bookshelves, and it takes a while. It's a little bit difficult. The light is really only next to the wall, and so you're kind of having to like take books and put them like directly next to your face in order to read some of like the faded script in order to like see titles and things like that. And there's a lot of books that you actually just can't read, as there's books in like all sorts of different languages. There's some that are in Common, some in Dwarven, Elvish. There's a strange couple books that are in Undercommon, which seem to be about like you think that they're probably books that were acquired through the demolishment of like possibly crime syndicates and stuff like that, because they look like as if they're ledgers and stuff like that, and just like a quick flip through reveal like bribes that were given as well as debts that were owed and things like that. No names really stick out to you though. Over the course of probably about like 45 minutes, you finally come across a book that, while it isn't really about the elemental hearts, it's about something else that does catch your eye. The book is titled The Guardian of Water.
Guess I'll pull it out and go start reading through it.
The book itself is actually not that big. The only reason why it's as thick as some of the books nearby is because as you're flipping through it, it's actually written in the same book in about 7 different languages. You recognize Common, Elven, Dwarvish. There is, from what you can tell, probably Infernal, as well as, due to your experience in finding some of this stuff, Primordial, of the different languages of those. And yeah, there's like about 7 to 8 different languages. And it's a short book, but it details this ancient water elemental that pretty much embodies like an entire like area of the ocean. And this area that it embodies is around the northwestern side of Austria and sort of goes down the coast a little bit, as well as out into the open water itself over a pretty large area. In fact, it even somewhat touches the border of Aqua Tehran. And pretty much like that is the water elemental's body. It's just this entire section of the ocean. And apparently it is, for the most part, a very benevolent water elemental. While it doesn't really like assist anyone, it doesn't hurt anyone at all. In fact, in some cases, this water elemental has had deals made with it in order to ask for assistance. A sort of trade-off, so to speak. This elemental was given the name Qualis.
Qualis. Gotta write that down. Okay.
Aqualis is an ancient water elemental, very, very ancient. In fact, is probably considered by from this book's standards to probably be a primordial elemental, which is a very, very powerful elemental. It is thought that Aqualis possessed the heart of water, which enhanced its powers even more. There is a legend in the book that states the fact that there was a deal made in the far distant past by an ancient king of Austria, far before Garland's time.
Okay.
Like thousands of years ago, sort of like far in the past. There is an ancient legend that dictated that there was a high king who once made a deal with Aquilus in order to use the power of the Heart of Water to aid in a war against one of their southern neighbors. And in return, a part of the king's land was sank into the ocean to expand Aquilus's borders.
Hmm.
And that's what you get from this book.
Okay. Well, at least it's something. We learned something about Aquilus.
All right. This probably took you over the course of from entering the library. This probably took you about an hour and a half to find this book and then skim through it and read it in order to make sure the fact that it's something that you actually wanted to know. Is there any other book that you would wish to find? At this point in time, you could probably assume that few hours have passed through everything that's not a few, about 2.5 hours have passed through everything that's happened. So it's probably around like 12:30 in the afternoon.
Got it. I guess any books about like the fall of Garland.
All right. Roll me another investigation.
Investigation. 15. 2 points higher.
You go through all of these, well, not all of these books, obviously, but you go through a lot of these books, skimming over the covers, trying to find anything that might relate to Garland. And you start to notice something. And that is the fact that it seems like the history of these lands stopped being recorded around 900 years ago. You're having a difficult time really finding anything related to Garland. There is one book that you find that details Garland in the early days of him becoming High King and the good things that he did do, but there's nothing really about his fall from what you can find. That is until you finally come across a book with no title. Opening it, it kind of confuses you for a moment, as the first few words talk about the fact that this details the events of oh my gosh, what was the event called? I already forgot because I have no brain. I believe it was called the Rage of Frost.
That sounds familiar, yeah.
Should be, because I said it near the beginning of the session. I'm just trying to remember. Where the hell did I write that at? Oh god, where the hell was that at? Yeah, Rage of Frost. Okay, there we go. Yeah, it talks about details of this event called the Rage of Frost. Apparently, it was from one of the cousins of the High King. The name is never spoken, but it talks about High King Garland and refers to him as cousin or child of the same blood and things like that. It talks about these horrifying events that took place where an unknown ritual was being done, and the Pale Lady had come with a bunch of the High Lords who wished to depose of Garland due to the tyranny that started to fill his reign. And Garland responded with quite a large amount of bloodshed using the Heart of Water. A battle between the High Lords and their armies and an enormous army of water elementals started to occur within a large area just to the east of High King's Rest, the place that you now know is called Stormfrost Manor. Oh, sorry.
Now you're good.
The battle took place in an enormous field. This field is where a lot of the grains of Austria was grown, and so it was often referred to as the field of gold, or the field of life. You don't know exactly where it's referring to, but it depicts about the fact that this battle took place, and through much bloodshed, the High Lords and their armies finally made their way into the castle town of High King's Rest. And at that point in time, the Pale Lady, having already slipped beyond the battles that were taking place into the keep itself with some of the High Lord's trusted aides, as well as some other powerful people, went in order to try and assassinate the High King and disrupted some sort of ritual, which caused the Heart of Water to be lost from Garland's grasp. At that point in time, the water elementals seem to have lost control of themselves and seem to start to slowly freeze over. The ocean itself rose over the mountains and started to encompass the valleys to the north. This enormous tidal wave making its way towards High King's Rest as these frozen water elementals started to what is the word? Kind of nonchalantly just slaughter whoever was nearby. They killed anything that was moving, sometimes even fellow water elementals. It was an absolute bloodbath. Garland did die, but no one knows whether it was caused by him losing control over the water elementals or the assassination succeeding. And the only person who survived out of all 9 people who went into that keep to kill him was the Pale Lady. And it, over the course of around half an hour to an hour, the High Lords tried to evacuate as many people as possible, as far from the keep as possible, but many people did not escape the oncoming rage of the water elementals as this enormous tidal wave swept over the city and slowly started to freeze the entire city. and it's marked in shaking script near the end. Aquilus himself punished us for our transgressions, and he left us with a message that none shall escape their frozen wrath.
Interesting, alright.
All right. I'll allow you 2 more searches. I mean, just in general for the entire library, too. Just so you know.
Okay. You know what? 'Cause I'm kinda curious on this. I doubt it'd be in the library, but I'd love to at least try and see. The cubes, the heated, like, warming cubes. I want to see if there's, like, where the research notes for that is, or, like, if there's any left of how they were made and how they were created.
If that was in the library, it definitely wouldn't be in the history area.
Yeah, I know, that's why I was saying.
You would either have to randomly try and search for it across the library, which you have no idea how big it is now, since there's apparently a library below the library, and the stairs go down even further from there.
Yeah, I was gonna go up and ask her, the librarian.
You go up and ask this maid, who seems much calmer at this point in time. She actually does look you in the eye, though she seems like a little on guard.
Yeah, that's fine. I won't
Uh,
touch her. I understand
She
now.
takes out the board and the charcoal, and she writes across it, and she shows it to you. I don't know what it is that you're asking for. I don't know what the thermal cubes are.
Bit of a long shot. I guess I can try and attempt to ask the lady later. Very well. Do you know where there might be any books regarding the Heart of Fire, or anything about the elementals?
She shakes her head no, and she scribbles something down. If it was it, and you read it as she shows it to you, and it says, if there was anything regarding the hearts of the elementals, it was probably in the king's study, which was ransacked and burned hundreds of years ago.
Makes sense. Very well. Ba, 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 ba. Fun thought, just for fun. Anything about the Pale Lady besides some of the history books I've read about her? Any more further details on, like, her adventures or travels?
You see an unidentifiable look kind of come across the maid's face, and she calmly takes back out the board, and she slowly scrawls something on there, and it only says a few words, reading, "We don't talk of her."
Oh.
And then she just slowly erases it.
Oh, wait, that makes sense. Very well. Jessica's trying to think. Oh, what about... I doubt there'll be anything, but I can at least try. Anything about Renegon? I think I'm pronouncing it wrong.
Yeah, because I have no idea what you're talking about.
Dang it, it's the thing that... the person or thing that grants the wish.
Riven?
Riven, that's it. I don't know why I thought Renegon. Riven, that's it. Gotta re-note this down so I stop pronouncing it wrong.
She looks thoughtful for a moment before she scrawls something on the board, and she holds it up to you, kind of looking questioningly, and it just says, "What is Riven?"
It's something I've been looking into. It's supposed to grant wishes. It's folklore or fantasy. Not sure if it's true, because sometimes there are truths within all fantasy. At least fables. It's what I've been kinda looking for. Seeing if it's true or not. But if you've never heard of it, it may not even be down here.
She erases what she had on there and she scribbles on there. I've read most of the fantasy and folklore books in the library, and there isn't anything mentioning a ribbon.
Very well, thank you. Oh, might as well learn more about her. Any books containing about, this might be another no, but wouldn't hurt to try. I learned about her briefly. Cassandra Nielsen, or anything of the Nielsen family? Sorry, this might be a bit hard to talk about, or write about.
You see her eyes light up. And you see like an almost like happy grin across her face as she like starts to speedily scrawl something across there. And and you read it and it says, of course, what do you want to know about Cassandra? Do you want books, scrolls, paintings? Like it starts like listing like all this crap, and then she like keeps erasing stuff and like listing more stuff. It has like pamphlets, portraits, drawings, quotes. Like there's like all sorts of things that she's like listing across it, and she's like getting more and more excited as she's like scrawling this all down.
I'm ecstatic to see your enthusiasm. More books. Though I would love to see more paintings and drawings. She seems lovely. But books, information about her. I would love to learn more about her. Jen told me about her, and she seems very interesting to me. Anything about her and her family? I was told she had...
You hear, as soon as she hears the word family, she kind of like stiffens for a moment before she just kind of like gives you a quick nod. And she goes ahead and she like motions for you to step back out into the landing of the stairwell.
I move and follow.
And she takes the little lamp device and she flips it upside down, and then she seems to click something that's on the bottom of it, and you hear this sound, and the fire actually like starts to get sucked into it, and over the course of about 30 seconds the fire quickly gets sucked back from the trail back up into this like little like genie lamp, and she flips it back upside down, right side up, and she sets it on in the alcove. And as she steps out, she holds the amulet kind of token back up towards the door, and the glyph on it glows blue, and then kind of like slowly like forces itself closed, and then and you hear a soft click as it seems to lock back in place. And then she starts to lead you actually back up the stairwell. And you guys walk back up, of course, doing the same thing with all the glyphs and the sigils and stuff like that. And she gets up to the top and uses the little genie lamp device once more and puts it to the side, and then immediately walks over to a specific section of books. And as you're looking through it, you can see the fact that it seems to be books of the Selûnite faith. And several of them are detailing the lives of clerics and priests, and there is a small section that seems to be dedicated to Cassandra Nielsen.
I guess I'll start going through that. Like, well, I guess I'm learning a lot more about Selûne today.
There are 5 different books. A couple of them seem to be biographies written by people about her life. And then there are a couple that seem to there's one actually that has just like it's like a book of like pictures and stuff like that of just like paintings and things like that were drawn in her image of uh almost like different points in her life almost, and her doing different things.
Kind of just browse through that.
Yeah, you see the fact that there's a decent amount of them that seem to be whenever she was like kind of like a young child, probably looking like probably around like 12, maybe 13 years old. And then slowly it kind of like goes up in age until you see the fact that she grows into like a young girl of about like 16 to 18. And then from there, it seems to almost time skip to her being like a full grown woman, like in her like 20s. And like before, you see the fact that she has this long black hair, very dark purple to almost black skin. And a lot of them, she's wearing this kind of like thin, very like kind of wispy like regalia that has symbols of saloon over them. But some of them are also more like formal, like full on robes and things like that. And they have her doing all sorts of things, from like talking to people, from being in the midst of what looks like prayers to even sermons, as well as looking like as if she's like performing like magics and stuff like that for people. Her eyes are actually shown in several different pictures to be all the way from silver to this strange, like kind of like pure white. In addition to that, wait, did I just say the fact that I said that fact that she has like black skin, didn't I? Or black hair, I mean.
Black hair, yeah.
She does not. I don't know why in the world I said that, because she's supposed to actually have silver hair.
Ah, that's right.
I think I was thinking of her
sister
skin whenever I said that.
Oh.
I was thinking of her skin, and then yeah, one of her sisters has black hair. Whoops. Anyways, yeah, she has silver hair. I lost track of what I was saying. Yeah, okay, so there's several of these that show her like performing these miracles for people and things like that. There is also a point in time where it shows her with a dragon that seems to be molded from silver itself in this small picture. And a lot of these are titled just saying Cassandra Nilsson, but this one says Cassandra and Avanos.
That's so.
And it shows Cassandra kind of like cradling and like kind of like leaning into the snout of Avanos, as Avanos is kind of like nuzzling her head, looking like as if she's nuzzling her head against Cassandra. The last book seems to be more about like kind of quotes that Cassandra said. Reading through it, a lot of these quotes seem to be detailing like scripture and stuff like that from the book, such as like Saloon guides us on our path as long as you look towards her light, and like a bunch of religious things like that for the most part. But there is one phrase that does catch your eye, because it is one of the only quotes that doesn't seem to really have anything to do with religion.
Mm-hmm.
And it says the fact that this is Cassandra's most said phrase. And that is the fact that she said, family is the most important thing in life. And for your family, you should be willing to sacrifice anything to keep them safe.
Interesting. Is the girl still with me, the maid?
The maid is kind of like watching you look through all of these.
Mm-hmm.
She's not doing anything now. She's just kind of like watching you with like a excited expression, kind of like urging you on to read them.
I'll kind of point at that quote, looking up at her, just like, so Cassandra was close to her family, I suppose?
Oh my goodness, sorry. My
Nah,
throat is
you're
getting pretty
good.
dry now. I
Understandably.
didn't have a drink. I keep not getting a drink before doing this, and
Oh no.
that's a grave error. Anyways, you see the fact that she starts, her excitement sort of dims down, and she sort of looks at the 3 books that are biographies of her, and she picks out the second book, and she kind of skims through it for a moment before she stops about like 2/3 of the way through, and then she hands the book to you.
I will start reading the point she showed me.
From that point onwards, for a good probably about like 70 or 80 pages, the book details the fact that Cassandra was close to all of her family, but the people she was closest to were her 2 sisters, and then it has a part of it that seems to have been just like completely erased, like the text itself looks like as if it was erased from the book. And then it says, and Rowanessa. She loved these 2 sisters dearly, more so than her own life, as there was several times in which the growing dissatisfaction with tieflings caused her sisters to be put in harm's way, and Cassandra sacrificed herself in order to protect them from harm. And it shows several pictures of Cassandra, which you actually didn't see in all these different portraits. It shows the fact that Cassandra actually had a scar down the side of her, the right side of her face, that curved all the way down the side of her jaw, down her neck, under her clothing. A very vicious looking scar. Her right silver eye seemed like as if it was a pure white orb at that point in time, like as if she might have been blind in that eye. And there's another picture that's showing that same scar, but then there is another scar that goes across the lower part of her neck underneath her clothing, and then you see the fact that it reappears below her shoulder onto her forearm, or not her forearm, her like her bicep, and kind of like curves around there and ends just above the elbow, like as if she kind of like got slashed across that way, while looking like as if she was like kind of like blocking the sword or axe, something bladed.
Castron would kind of point, looking to the maid. Why is it in all the other picture books she's not pictured with scars?
She looks at you, and she looks almost afraid for a moment before she slowly takes out the board and starts to scrawl something on it. And she kind of shows you it several times as she starts scrawling through all this. And she pretty much says, it's because during Cassandra's life, the hatred of tieflings grew more and more due to tieflings being blamed for the tyranny of the king. There were a lot of people who blamed this tiefling, this advisor, for the High King being the reason for his tyranny and madness.
Who was this advisor? Or is his name also lost to time?
It was a she.
Oh.
Another female, which is the and she says it was a she, and it's even more so the reason why tieflings such as Cassandra and the Pale Lady were hated, because not only they were tieflings, but they were female tieflings.
Hmm.
And you see a sort of a look of hesitation go across the maid's face before she finally scribbles something down the board. She shows you to it, and it says the fact that the advisor's name was Maverick, Maverick the Blind.
She was a female tiefling?
She gives a nod.
Sorry, just typing this down. I see. So, Maverick is the reason why tieflings like Cassandra and Nessa were looked so poorly upon.
She hesitates for a moment before she gives a slight nod, and she writes something. It says, "For the most part."
What else happened?
She starts to write things on the board, showing it to you several times as she writes stuff, erases, and writes more things. And she pretty much says there were many rumors going around at that point in time. The fact that a lot of people who went missing were being sacrificed to demons, and tieflings with their infernal blood were thought to be the first people who were doing so, which just enhanced the hatred for tieflings. Tieflings were already looked at with great suspicion, but due to the combination of many blaming Maverick for the High King's madness, as well as the supposed sacrifices to demons that were happening all around the country, it enhanced the distrust into hatred.
I see, makes sense. And no one knows what happened to Rowanessa? I was told that she just disappeared.
You see the maid pause for a moment before she actually moves a couple of books and reaches behind into the bookshelf. And you see the fact that she reaches behind and then like over, like as if she's reaching like in a lower area below the shelf. And she kind of struggles for a moment, like on her tippy toes. And then she grabs something, and you see the fact that she starts to kind of pull it up, but then you hear her like as it sounds like she drops something. And then she kind of gives what looks like as if she's like sighing. And she struggles a little bit more before she finally pulls something out, and it's a small like wood box. It looks very, very old. It has silver claspings on every single corner, and the lock itself looks like as if it's gold. She flips open the lock, seemingly not locked at this point in time, and she opens the box, and you see a small piece of yellowed paper, the edges having been frayed. And she kind of like shows you the box. She doesn't pick up the note, she just like shows you the box with the note in it.
I guess gently take the box and the note, and I'll read the note.
I left to go south to continue my journey and hopefully move on from my grief. I understand that you felt the need to do the things you did, but I don't agree with it. And I don't have the patience nor emotions to deal with you at this point in time. Maybe at a later date, we can meet again. Your little sister, Rowanessa.
So she went south.
You see the maid just kind of nod her head. You're actually surprised by this because everyone assumes the fact that Rowanessa just literally straight up disappeared and probably died.
Yeah.
But this note is saying the fact that Rowanessa willingly left because she didn't want to deal with the aftermath, pretty much.
Sorry, writing things down. Why doesn't anyone else know of this? It's supposed to be kept secret? Jin didn't even know. He assumed she disappeared and possibly passed.
You see a kind of like look of embarrassment go across her face before she writes something on there on the board and shows it to you. And she like starts to show it to you, and it's written in Infernal. And then she erases it real quick, looking like even more embarrassed before she writes it again in Elven. And you feel a bit of shock reading this, as it says, "Because I'm of her bloodline."
Castron pauses and looks at her. Wait, you're related to Rowanessa?
She erases what she had on there, and she scribbles some stuff on there, and pretty much it just says, "Yes, I'm one of her great, and it says it like a few, like dozen times, pretty much.
Makes sense.
Granddaughter.
I see. And this is all you know left of the past of Rowanessa, or do you have any other family history of them? Any other relatives, or...
Whenever you say relatives, she looks saddened.
Castron
And
swallows. I'm sorry.
And she writes down several times, showing you the board every single time she finishes writing, and then erasing more stuff. And she pretty much says, "My mother and father died in an accident, and the only relative who was supposed to be alive apparently perished in an accident around the dark woods in Rodane, close to around 30 so years ago."
Do you have a name of who they were?
It was her aunt. And the aunt was named. Just a second. I'm trying to find where I wrote this. The aunt was named. It's a B word. She's not a B word. It was a B name. That's what I
No,
meant.
you're fine. I got that. I got that immediately. I was like, he wouldn't call her a bitch. I'm sure she's not a bitch. Maybe she could be. I don't know. She's probably thinking of a B name.
It was okay. There we go. It was Sorry, I had to find it for a second there. It was Brianna. I kept wanting to say Bella, and I'm just like, it's not Bella. Yeah, it's Brianna.
Any reasons why she was going through the dark woods, or did you even know?
She writes on the board, showing it to you. She lived in one of the villages in the Darkwood. She didn't keep in contact with my mother and father very often, so they didn't know the fact that she had passed away so long ago. I was just left with a will telling me to seek her out, but she was already gone.
I see.
This girl, I don't remember if I told you how old she looked, but she looks like as if she's like maybe in her early to mid 20s. She's slightly younger than you.
Ah, okay. Did Brianna had a last name? Or is it also just like Nilsson, or did she marry at all? I can try and see if I ever go down there to see if I can find any information for you. Maybe send you a letter. Can you read Common? Do I have to write you in Elvish?
Whenever you ask about the common thing, she like slowly shakes her head, looking a little embarrassed, and
No, it's nothing to be embarrassed
she
about.
she writes down, I can understand common, but I can't write it, so I can't read it either.
Makes sense. Just thought I'd try and ask. I'll have to remember to, if I can write you in Elvish.
She kind of looks at you a little sheepishly before she writes down something, some other stuff on the board, and she tells you that she grew up near. She grew up actually in Rodane, and she grew up on the very southern edges of the Sindane Woods, and so the two languages that were most commonly spoken were Elven and Infernal, which the Elven by the elves and Infernal by her parents. And so she never really needed to learn Common originally, due to the fact that there was no one really nearby, and her parents were actually originally farmers. Her parents did know Common, but she was supposed to be sent off to the city of Sindane in order to be educated, to not have to grow up being a farmer and things like that. But unfortunately, her parents died close to around 10 to 12 years ago.
The Sindane is where Peleus lived, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Peleus, Peleus is a part of the royal family of the Sindane.
Got it.
Sindane Woods.
I thought so, but I wanted to make sure 100%. Casson will nod and says, I've been to Sindane before.
She looks a little excited, and she kind of like writes a bunch of stuff across the board, asking like, what did it look like? Is it true the fact that they have homes within the trees and you can walk across the branches? And like she like starts asking you all these questions about Sindane.
Casson will smile and nod. Yes, it's quite beautiful there. people live in the trees, high up in the trees. Of course, yeah, they walk across on bridges. You should see it in the springtime. Some of the trees blossom in beautiful pinks and whites.
You see the fact that she has a look of wistfulness across her face, and she scrawls across it, the board. I wish I could see it.
Castron will smile and nod. Well, hopefully in the future you can. It's a beautiful place. I
She
need
shakes
to
her
visit
head
it
no.
again.
She
Oh?
shakes her head no and scrawls across the board. I've promised to serve my lady, and I will not leave her until her mission is accomplished.
Makes sense. Understood. Though, it wouldn't hurt for a visit. You can always come back, but I understand if it's still a no.
She seems to kind of like try and change the subject as she scrawls across the board quickly. Is there anything else that you're looking for? You have one search left.
Oh, she never answered me if she knew, fuck, I've already forgotten her name. Damn it. Started with a B. Damn it, she's not a B word.
Brianna?
Yeah, Brianna, she had like a surname.
Let me... God, I gotta re-find her name real quick. Just a second.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. I already forgot the name myself. There's too many names I have listed here.
Yeah.
I gotta make sure which name she has. Yeah, okay, so yeah, she does have the same last name. Her last name was Nilsson, so she was Brianna Nilsson.
Okay, just making
I had to make sure.
Oh, and I'm terribly sorry. I never asked your name.
She writes across saying, her name is Maria.
How do I spell Maria? I'm trying so hard.
You didn't ask me how to spell Brianna.
I butchered it to where I know I can read it, but I know it's wrong. I took all the way down. Thank you. Oh yeah, I spelled Brianna horribly wrong.
All right. Yeah, but you have one last search left.
Yep.
You want to look for the map you were talking about earlier, or?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and look for the map.
Okay. Maria, as you now know her name, seems quite taken with you at this point in time. You had a bit of a nonchalant start, and then it got a little bit rocky, and now over the course of learning about Cassandra as well as Maria's own family history, she seems quite taken with you. She seems to be enjoying this company at least a little bit. Asking her about maps and the like, she shows you to a small offshoot room. There's no door to it. It's near like the very back of the library, in between a couple bookshelves, a small doorway. And entering in, you see the fact that there's a bunch of scrolls all over the place. There's a small table in the center that looks like as if there used to be something spread out across it, but it's pretty much like rotted away with time. Which kind of leaves you to wonder if the bookshelves may or may not be enchanted due to the fact that nothing else that's on the bookshelf seems to have been rotted away. It does seem a little strange, the fact that it's only whatever was on this table that seems to have rotted away. But regardless, she pulls out a couple of these scrolls and she rolls out a couple of them on the table, pretty much on top of each other, and they all seem to be old as hell map, like freaking ancient maps.
Wow, these even still state that the Green Woods are the Green Woods.
Yeah, like that's how old these maps
Yeah.
are. There's no maps that are dictating like the Rime Woods. There's no maps dictating Rimewood Village. There's no maps dictating the Ironhide or the Red Eagle tribes. There's no map dictating the. Oh god, I forgot what the hell is that village that was on the eastern side of the Rime Woods. I could have swore I gave you guys the name of it.
You did. Duh. God, I'm blanking.
Oh shoot, did I actually not write that down either? I probably didn't even write it down.
Uh-oh.
I don't see it. Oh shoot, did I really not write that down? What the hell?
Oh no, I have the hiccups.
Oh shoot, I literally don't think... I don't think I wrote down what the name of that, like, village town was.
Uh-oh. That's okay.
Well, you know what? Fine. In honor of the fact that the Ironhide tribe and the Red Eagle tribe are pretty much just like Red Eagle Village and Ironhide Village, I'm gonna just name it Blood Wolf Village because that's the name of the clan that's there.
Hell
And that might have
yeah.
been what I called it, but I don't know if that's what it's gonna be called now. All right. Anyways, yeah, it doesn't dictate that village. In fact, it actually says the fact that there used to be a city that was on the eastern side, probably a harbor city, judging by how close it is to the ocean, as well as a couple towns and a few outlying villages from outside the town as well. They're also apparently in the very southern part of the Greenwood, what is now known as the Rimewood. There apparently was a town that was there that was used as a. From what you can tell, it looks like the map has like these small worn out lines that kind of look like as if they're talking about roads that seem to have gone through the wood to either side of it towards a town that was on the outskirts of the forest on the east and a town that was on the outskirts of the forest to the west. Judging by its position, having looked at other maps and stuff like that, you know the fact that things that are like that on the edge of kingdoms, if they're not like a border town that's supposed to be used as defense, then they're generally a trading town.
Makes sense, makes sense.
You do see the fact that there are several different locations that are named. Some of the names seem to be a little faded, and you have to like go through several different maps just to get like all of the names. But you see the fact that there is the Golden Fields, which on another map is listed as the Field of Life, which is right next to. It's a very large center part of the like sort of central western part of Austria that actually connects to a place known as High King's Rest and another place that is known as where is it? Oh my god. Where the hell is this? I'm sorry, I have a lot of names on this thing right now.
It's fine.
second, I have to like skim through this crap. This is great. Let me just search. Well, actually, I don't really remember the name, so I can't. Well, no, actually, I think I might know the name. Actually, I could just hit city and search. Oops. Damn it, I did that wrong. Whoops. Come on.
Okay. There we go. Yeah, here it is.
Your voice changes
It's
on.
called Reveal City, and it's to the west of Austria, kind of southwest, actually.
Ah.
Towards the center of the Field of Gold, or the Field of Life, whichever one you want to call it.
Okay. I'll see your voice changers on.
Oh, whoops, did it?
Yep.
Oops, sorry.
Sorry, didn't mean to do that.
Okay.
But yeah. How the hell did I accidentally do that? Oh, I must have hit one of the arrow keys again. God damn it. Anyways. But yeah, it's Reveal City, which is near the center of the Fields of Life, or the Fields of Gold, whichever one you want to refer to.
Got it.
It's called by both on these maps. It seems to be a pretty large city, judging by the maps. It seems to be almost rivaling the size of the city of Austria, the capital city. It seems to be the second largest city in the country, from what you can tell. There is another city that seems to be to the south of High King's Rest, kind of nestled in the mountain area around there. You can't really get a name from any of the maps. It seems a little too worn away. But there is a strange symbol on where this city is marked. And you also see the fact that the northern mountain range, at least the vast majority of the northern mountain range, is labeled as the Northern Crown.
Maria, if it wouldn't trouble you, do you have like a pen, paper? Maybe I could try and jot this down to show to my companions later. Not sure if it'll be useful now, but it's something to keep note of.
She gives you a nod before she leaves. Looking over it, you can see the fact that sort of to the north of the Fields of Life, there is a place that is ironically named the Deadlands, which you notice the fact that there are no villages, towns, or cities within this area of the map, and it's to the very northern part. It's a small section of land, and it's kind of around the area in which you were told to not go to, as it was a place currently known as the Death Frost, or the End.
Ah, okay.
There is a strange, like, borderline in between the Field of Life as well as the Deadlands that is labeled as the Barrier Wood. And it seems to be like a strip of forest that is literally right in between the Deadlands and the Fields of Life, and it goes like it has like this kind of like half circle that encases the Deadlands into this like kind of isolated region. After looking over these maps a little bit, you finally have Maria return with some paper, charcoal, and other things like that. She didn't really know what you wanted to like try and draw this with, so she like grabbed like paper, parchment, charcoal, ink and feather pen, and like she grabbed like all these like writing utensils. She kind of like is like holding it all in her arms, and she just puts it on a small chair that was kind of sitting in a corner.
Oh dear.
And she kind of
thank
like looks
you.
at the table, and then she looks at the stuff she just put on the chair, and then she writes something on the board and shows it to you, and she asks you, do you want to take this to a larger table?
Yes, that'd actually be very helpful if we could. Kind of like picking up the scrolls.
She kind of like reaches out a little bit, looking like as if she's like trying to say something, and then she scribbles something on the board, and you read it saying, be careful with those, they're very fragile.
Castron nods. Will do. Thank you very much.
She follows behind you with all of the writing supplies and drawing supplies, good stuff like that.
Yeah.
Placing them out on the table. This part of the library, like this upper part of the library, unlike the lower part where all those history books were, is surprisingly clear of dust. You set out all the supplies and the scrolls of the maps and stuff like that on the tables, and you start to draw out the maps. Roll me a d20. Sadly, just a flat d20, as you have no proficiency.
I have no bond.
All right.
But I have a 17, so I at least know somewhat what to do.
All right, so you kind of are just like I've had to copy like a few maps, though some of them have been more sneakily done.
I've done this before without bond. I can do it again. Just been a few years.
you kind of just look over it, and then you're just like, all right, I got this. And you start to slowly, it's a painstaking process, but slowly you take some parchment and stuff like that, and you draw out the map on these parchments as much as you can get. There's some parts of it that seem a little faded and blank on the maps, and so you're not sure if you get all of it, but you get a vast majority of the maps. Of the map filled in using all several of these different maps all together, of these ancient maps.
Yeah.
Once done, you have a not extremely detailed, but a general map showing the vast majority of Austria as it was many centuries ago.
Yeah. It's something, though. It's something kind of look back at and be like, hey, look at this.
Yeah.
Don't know if it'd be useful, but it's cool to have.
Roll me a intelligence check.
Intelligence. I'm good at those, I think. I am. Well, I have a +2. I have a 12.
You're not 100% sure how useful this will be, but you have a feeling the fact that with like historians and like archaeologists, this map could probably catch a pretty penny. This is literally a map detailing a country from 1,000 years ago, as it has never been seen before.
Fun. Well, I will roll it up gently and put it in my pack. And then gently roll up the very fragile ones.
Yep, Maria takes away the fragile ones and goes to put them back. And by the time that you're done with all of this, it's probably about like 6 o'clock in the evening, having done like all this talking as well as the painstakingly slow process of drawing the map. And
Castron kind of brushed himself off and she's like, well, I'm beaten, honestly starving. Maria, if you've got nothing better to do, you want to come join me for a meal? I could talk more about, I should remember the name of the woods, damn it. How dare I?
Yep, how dare you. You do feel like absolute exhaustion. Today you've been through a decent amount. You had to pretty much re-experience the death of the one of, if not the last queen of Austria.
Yeah, that was.
Uh,
I cried. I felt
yeah,
bad
it
for
was a
her.
yeah, it was a pretty brutal thing.
Oh, I felt so
Anyways,
bad.
um, that as well as having to re-meet with Arswick and then searching through all of this with pretty much no rest. You also did not sleep the day before, as you woke up in the middle of your rest in order to go and deal with that memory. So you actually have had a point of exhaustion this entire time, and I forgot to do that. But it's whatever.
Whatever.
You got away with that. Probably for the better.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Maria unfortunately tells you the fact that she does have work that she should have been doing this entire time, but she was accompanying you. But she does catch the attention of one of the other servants and gets them to get some food for you before you turn in for the night.
Catherine will nod. Well, very well. Also, my prior offer before, is there a way for me to contact you, either through letter or anything like that? I'm not sure if I can send letters from the south to here, but I'd like to try.
She looks at you for a moment before she takes out the board and writes on it. Do you and you read it and it says, "Do you really think that there would be able to be a letter to arrive here with no messengers that cross these lands?"
I mean, there's birds, but makes sense.
She writes something else. Unless they're native to this land, I don't think birds would survive these temperatures.
Very well. Well, it was very nice meeting you. Hopefully we'll meet again.
She kind of gives you a grin before she erases something else. She erases and writes something else on it, and it says like, "But if you find a mage who can cast Sending," and then she just kind of lets it trail off from there, and then she kind of gives you a grin before she erases it and like runs back off to the library.
Catherine pauses at that and just like, very well. Sending, very well.
All right. So you eat, you rest, and Darla runs up to you with, well, not runs up, but she comes to your room with, shut up, phone, with the butler Daniel, and she's just like, "Casron, the lady is calling for you. Hurry up and get dressed. You have places to be today. Come on."
Okay. Getting up. Sully gets up, exhausted still.
She looks at you and she like kind of has her hands on her hips, just like, "You really do everything with that mask, don't you? You even sleep in it?"
Habit, yes.
Man, you tieflings and your crazy habits. Anyways,
Dear, it's religion. I have to wear it.
Right, I wouldn't know. I only follow Saloon. Anyways, the lady told me to get you everything that you needed for your trip, so I had Daniel here help me. We have this bag here, and she just kind of like takes it from his hands and like, she like throws it with a surprising amount of strength, like directly into your chest. Roll me a strength saving throw.
I guess now with disadvantage since I still have exhaustion.
You don't have exhaustion. You've rested.
Oh, okay, never mind. Strength. Can I get my hit points back?
Yeah, you can get your hit points back.
Thank you.
There you go.
12.
She hits you with this freaking backpack full of stuff, and you're just like, you kind of like give out like this, you're giving out like this chuckle, and then it's just like, as this backpack just like slams you in the gut, and you fall to the floor. And she kind of like hears you collapsing on the ground, and she's like reaching out towards Daniel again. She's just like, "Oh, come on, Castron. Did you not get any sleep or something? Why are you so weak?" Anyways, here's some clothes for you. And she like hurls them with a stupid amount of force at your face once more, and they like hit you in the face. Luckily, they're closed, so they don't knock you over.
Or the mask.
Yeah. And then she grabs something else, and she like looks like as if she's like, and
Lady, are you trying to break my mask? Kind of like brushing himself off.
no, but you need to hurry up. Go on, change. Come on.
Okay. Wait, change. Okay, very well, very well.
Oh, I'm not interested in you anyways. Don't worry. Lady Yuki's the only one for me. Regardless.
No.
What?
No. We are not discussing that. Anyway, goes and get I will go get changed. Anything else?
Yes. This stone right here. And she hands you this stone that has like a face that looks like it's calling out. This is a sending stone. I have the other one. If you need to contact Lady Yuki, tell me.
Very well.
If you don't need to contact Lady Yuki, don't talk to me, because frankly, I don't care. On top of that...
Oh, but darling Darla, won't you miss me at all?
I will break the stone, and then you'll get no assistance from us.
Okay.
On top of that, as a little incentive, here you go. And she like hurls this pouch straight at you. Roll me another strength save.
Oh dear.
You're in the middle of getting changed, you're gonna have to roll this one with a disadvantage.
Oh, okay.
You already rolled a 5, so you're definitely not gonna pass this. Yeah. 2. You're like in the middle of changing, and like you have like the your shirt like kind of part way on, so you can't even see it, and like you hear something whistling through the air, and you have this dread go through your mind of just like, oh god, she threw something else, and you like kind of like try and hurriedly put the shirt on while reaching down in the direction of like your general chest area, and it like slams into your hand, and you kind of like feel this slight twinge of pain as something that seems to be full of something pretty heavy just slams into your chest, and you get knocked right back down to the ground.
Are you trying to kill me, woman?
Saloon, please hurry up. Oh my goodness. We're in a hurry, and you just had to wake up late today of all days. Come on. That's an incentive, and as you like finally pull on the shirt, you see the fact that it's this bag. Smaller than like a lot smaller than a backpack, but larger than like a pouch or anything like that. It's kind of like this like decently sized bag, and it's partially open, and you can see the fact that there are coins spilling out of it. There's a couple that are gold, and several more that are silver, but you don't know what's in the rest of it. The rest of what's in there.
Go and clean that up, and then finish getting dressed and change.
In the middle of you getting dressed, she's like, in addition, she wanted you to have this, and she throws something else at you. Well, she like, it looks like she's about to throw it at you, and then she thinks twice about it, and she's like, how would I be able to throw this? That would be so disrespectful. And she walks over and she hands it to you.
I take it.
It is this box made of pure ice. It's small, and it feels cool to the touch. It doesn't feel like as if like you're actually holding an ice cube. It feels kind of like as if like you're holding a glass of cold water, kind of cold.
I open it.
Opening it up, you see an emblem. Sort of like what you'd see knights and stuff like that put on their cloak to show the family that they're in service to. You can see the fact that this emblem has a cresting wave with a crown below the wave, in the crest of the wave, and a scepter and a sword on top of the crest. You've actually never seen this crest. In fact, this crest has not shown up anywhere in the castle either. But you've also never really seen any sort of crests or banners or anything like that depicting any sort of like emblems of any sort of noble family or anything.
And this?
She looks at you like as if you're stupid. What do you mean, this?
I'm assuming it's the crest for here, right?
She kind of looks away and she's like rubbing at her nose and she's like mumbling something under her breath. You can roll a perception check to see if you hear it.
Yep, I'm trying. I wanna. I love this woman. Me as a person, I love her. She's great. 8. I buttoned my buttons wrong. I had to fix it.
Yeah, you like sort of are like looking at it and then you realize, oh gosh, I was like hurrying on putting this up, and like you kind of like fix your clothes a little bit and you only barely hear the fact of just like the words like stupid tiefling, and that's like pretty much all you hear. And then she like moves up to you, looking up at your face, and she like puts a finger against your shirt and then realizes the fact that you're like fixing your clothes and like in the middle of like pretty much like this tirade. She's like fixing your clothes for you. Just so you know, this is an emblem of the royal family of Austria, and get this is pretty much a badge of honor. You should feel respect for the lady for even bothering to give something like this to something like you. This pretty much is showing the fact that you have the power of the royal family behind you. There, now you actually finally look fine. Are you ready to go?
Yes, I'm ready. And I am the stupid tiefling.
She looks at you just like, oh, I've met more than one stupid tiefling in my life. Now, come on.
Very well. I'm hurrying. Slowly gathering things.
That should actually strike you as odd.
Yeah.
You know the fact that there are very few, if any, tieflings in the north due to how much they are disliked and hated.
Actually, yeah, no, he'll pause at that after gathering. Just be like, wait a minute. You met more tieflings? I thought they're disliked in the north. What do you mean there's more?
Yeah, there's this priest, that sometimes comes here in some sort of pilgrimage that lives way off to the west somewhere.
Name? Where in the west? Any specific town?
I don't know. Have you not seen what's happened to this country? Do you really think the fact that there's really any towns that exist beyond this now? If there are, then we don't know. The lady just wants to protect this city, not this country.
Alright. Very well. Well, thank you for that.
As for names, I don't know. He's never actually said his name, and we never bothered asking. We just call him the priest, and we just know the fact that he worships Saloon, the only right religion to worship. And she looks pointedly at you when she says that.
Yeah, Catstone kind of just looks away at that, just like, yeah. I know. I already had Jen trying to convert me. I get it.
Well, obviously, he wasn't very much of a good cleric if he failed to convert you. Regardless, I'm not even going to waste my time. Come on, hurry up!
I'm hurrying. I'm following behind.
Yeah, she, like, starts, like, speed walking, which is, like, pretty much the speed of you just normally walking, due to the fact that she's, like, almost half your height.
Yeah.
No, she's not almost half your height, but she is only, like, 5'1".
So she's about...
So...
a foot shorter than me? I think I'm 6'1".
Yeah, she's like a foot shorter than you thereabouts. So she's a pretty on the short side. And she's kind of like speed walking along. Now I'm not sure if the lady actually told you about what exactly is going on today, but she's going to be using her powers in order to send you to whatever destination. Whenever you arrive at the destination, just say the word, "We have arrived," and the winds will gently let you down. Remember to be loud and proud. You are an emissary of the Queen of Austria. Well, now just the lady of the city. But regardless, you have a pride of the royal family to uphold. And if you fail to do so and I learn of it, well, just say that you're not going to be happy about that. On top of that, it has been said the fact that you have made a deal with the lady in order to help regain her deceased husband's lost belongings. You may have to make a deal in order to bring people to the city. Should you have to make that deal, make sure to bring the notice of said thing to me, as I'm going to be having the one that has to make accommodations for them. Should you bring more than 20 people, make sure the fact that you don't have them travel until you've already notified us, because if you do not notify us before they start traveling here, we will probably open fire and possibly kill them. Also, in addition to that, we also will not have the prepared housing for more than 20 people at this point in time. Also, keep in mind that you're a tiefling.
Yes, I know my race.
This is the reason why I call you stupid. I just got done saying the fact that many people here in the north do not like tieflings.
Yes, I know this. I will keep in mind that I'm a tiefling and majorly hated.
I don't think you quite understand what I'm getting at. You have the honor and the unfortunate circumstance, why did she make this choice, of upholding the lady's honor. Even if someone spits, grinds, and beats you down, you are not to do anything that would harm the lady's reputation.
Oh, okay, very well. Oh, very
Of course,
well.
obviously, if they're going to kill you, then you should probably defend yourself, or else you won't be able to uphold the lady's wishes. But don't harm the lady's reputation.
Very well.
All right. And she keeps speed
High
walking along.
standards. But makes sense.
Yeah, she keeps speed walking along. And finally, as you guys walk out into the sort of like courtyard, a courtyard-esque kind of area, she turns around towards you and she kind of gives you this look of slight worry. Don't die.
I
Now,
will try
my lady
not
is
to.
waiting.
Very well. Start walking forward.
All right, yeah, you walk forward. You can see the fact that this is an empty courtyard, and Yuki is standing in the middle of it. She's just kind of like staring up at the sky, and the sky is pretty overcast at this point in time. There are small flurries of snow that are coming down.
Casseron will smile and bow. Good morning, my lady. Hope you rested well.
Yes, I feel much better, more at ease. Are you prepared for your journey?
I very well am.
Good.
She pauses for a moment, and then she slowly looks down towards you. And you see her eyes that are like this kind of like deep blue black start to get overtaken by like this glacial blue color. And the snow that is slowly falling starts to like kind of slowly swirl around her.
This is going to be a little cold, but know that you will not be harmed by the winds.
Understand.
The wind starts to pick up, and you feel yourself starting to like kind of like fall backwards as your feet are starting to like slowly like kind of like get picked up off the ground, like kind of like how like whenever a plane lands, it sort of like hops across the ground. That's sort of what's happening to you. Like the wind seems to almost kind of be struggling to pick you up right now, but it's growing stronger and stronger, and it's almost like there's like a tornado of snow that is starting to form around you.
I know that Darla probably gave you strict instructions on upholding honor and duty and all that stuff, but preserve your own life above all else. My reputation has been tarnished far beyond anything that you could do at this point. And please help me get my husband's things back. I will be forever in your debt.
Casseron will smile and give a bow. I will do my best, my lady.
She gives a deep bow towards you. It's a bow that you've never seen before. Obviously foreign to this land. And as she gives that deep bow towards you, you start to have your sight getting blinded by this snow that is swirling around you, and you're starting to get slowly picked up off the ground.
May our Silver Lady guide your path, and may your path be true. Safe travels, Casseron.
And you are picked up into the sky.
Whee!
And you feel the winds start to carry you southward. At first, it is very slow, and the little amount that you can actually make out beyond the wind swirling around you in the snow, the storm seems to be very small. But then it's almost like as if it like encompasses the small the small amount of snow that is coming down and like enhances it, and slowly the clouds start to turn darker and color, darker gray to an almost like kind of black color, and it seems to almost become night with how dark these clouds become, and immediately you start to see hail and thick flurries of snow, and an almost complete and total blizzard starts at this point in time. And this wind starts to pick up speed, and you're getting carried faster and faster south until you're starting to go so fast you actually cannot see anything beyond the curtain of white in front of you. And it's probably about an hour before a sort of like globe of what looks like see-through ice appears before you, and you can see out into the distance now. And way out before you, probably at least a couple hours walk, though you're moving much faster at this rate, so it might be just a few minutes. You can see what looks like a village, and you can see the forest off to the left of it, and it's safe to assume that this is probably Rimewood Village. You skid past that with an extreme amount of speed, and you keep heading south, and it's picking up speed more and more and more, and you're flying pretty much across the sky at probably several hundreds feet per second. And within about half an hour, maybe a little bit closer to an hour, you start to come across these hilled landscapes towards the base of the mountains. And in the distance, you can see these fires, these large bonfires, and the walls, these wooden walls of what looks like a village. And on the walls looks like these banners of the Red Eagle tribe. And you see this, and you're like quickly approaching it, like probably within like the next minute you're going to be hitting this village.
Cool, so I have arrived.
All right, yeah. And so you said we've arrived at our destination, and the winds like quickly like die down, and you see all these people kind of like crying out and what sounds like panic and everything as the winds like that the very front of this pretty much like wall of a blizzard pretty much dies down, and you're gently lowered to the ground, and you can see behind you the blizzard is still raging on, but slowly it seems to retract itself back north before it slowly dissipates as it's retracting back north.
Cass will
And you
smile.
are now at the Red Eagle Village.
Yep. Well,
Oh my goodness.
My destination. Hopefully my friends are still here, or this is going to be awkward.
Yep, and that is where we'll end the session, and this means the fact that they're going to be waking up to something very interesting tomorrow.
I have arrived.
Yep. All right.
Alright. I stop recording.